Okay, well, thank you for joining me today. Obviously, this is a long time coming. Installing these themes are not difficult if you know what you're doing. And hopefully today I can break down just HTML structures, CSS, just variables, how to use root variables. It may be over a lot of people's head, but the reality is once you understand what you're looking at, you don't have to know everything about HTML and JavaScript and all that good stuff. Now, if you are an advanced user, you obviously, if you know coding and things like that, you kind of appreciate the layout here and hopefully get a better understanding of how you can monetize this theme engine. Like I said, if you're familiar with ThemeForest and all these other theme engines, they're out there selling their themes and you're just getting a theme and it's up to you to install it. Being able to offer a theme that's already built that you've designed or developed and then offer all the other tools, that's huge. But needless to say, you can do that by, obviously acquiring your own themes and putting them in here. So, I'm really going to go through just how to set up a theme in our theme engine. There's two parts to that, right? There's using the blank theme and kind of just putting your stuff in there and just making it available for yourself. The theme engine is taking everything and making it available to somebody who is not an advanced user, who's not a coder, who wants drag and drop capabilities, who wants to leverage all of the content blocks that are built inside that theme and, make it really easy for them. And so, you have a cross between I'm not a coder, I'm not an advanced user, and I don't like the themes that are in there. How do I use the CMS to manipulate a theme structure to be my own set? And it's not really, it can most certainly if you, learn the builder and learn, just the layers and what you're actually doing. And that's all me. I'm going to have more training on that, obviously. But, to have more themes back here is a struggle for us simply because one, I do have a decent sized dev team, but they're 100% focused on cleanup, bug fixes, going through each feature functionality, kind of taking my scope and my starting of a feature functionality and doing not necessarily the groundwork, but the tedious stuff of finishing out a feature functionality. And our design team, who are well equipped to build out themes for our clients on the white label service side, if you're in that program and you've seen a site in your backend, you'll notice it's set up on the blank theme. We're not even leveraging the theme engine to its full capabilities internally today, which we're working on that. And the aftermath is obviously having more themes for the entire group, which is ultimately what we want. So this session has two purposes. One, hopefully, if you're not an advanced user, you can kind of learn from just watching me and kind of the things of what I look for and the tools that I use to build these out. And of course, save all your questions and feel free to, ask me, anything on a technical level. Hopefully I can, I'm not going to do an HTML course or a CSS course, but, I'm going to teach you in a way to make you, more dangerous than you are today. And then of course, if you are a coder, understanding our logic and how we built this system will make you even more dangerous and how to monetize this even further. And then the second part is, now we have a theme and we'll turn it on for everybody else. So hopefully, I'll spend less time educating on some of the smaller things as we progress each week, and we may be able to get 2 or 3 themes each week. So hopefully everyone will enjoy this and it won't be boring at this point. So I'm going to turn my camera off now. I just wanted to show you actually my new office. This is a much bigger room than I had previous videos. I haven't painted in here yet, but at any rate, appreciate everyone joining today. So I'm going to turn off video and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the theme I went out on ThemeForest. Now, one of the things that I look for on ThemeForest, again, I just love Bootstrap. There's Tailwind, there's all sorts of different frameworks. What you're not going to want. So one of the things about this theme itself, you'll see, and one of the places that you're going to want to go, one, don't ever go in the WordPress section. The whole point of our CMS is to get the heck away from WordPress code. If you start from there, I'm not saying you can't do it. You're just going to pull your hair out, just trying to figure out the hierarchy of the theme itself, opposed to all the other stuff that WordPress injects into your site. So starting from there is not good, but most of these themes, even if they're WordPress, have an HTML version of it. And so going into this site, hang on, there's several different versions here. You'll see, even if you went into the HTML section, you'll see the Next.js version. You'll also see that it has Bootstrap built into it. And so you may choose this one. This one you can install, but you're going to have a lot of headaches just because of the fact of how it's rendered, the different versions that they have as far as like React and the JavaScript. It's just way over your head if you're not very familiar with it, and especially not familiar with our platform. So I would certainly stay away from anything you see React or Next.js. But you'll see that there's an HTML version in most cases for any of these really good themes that have a ton of stuff. This one has a Tailwind CSS. You can use that one as well. But in this case, I just went with the Bootstrap 5 version of this. And, again, Figma and all those will work. It's just, you got to know what you're doing, and you'll have a lot of headaches if you don't start with. And again, you don't have to use Bootstrap 5. It's just much easier and cleaner. That's just my personal preference. You can do Tailwind CSS. I mean, as long as this hierarchy of the HTML, which I'll show you here shortly, is easy to see or easy to follow, because you're going to have a lot of issues when you come to like asset management, fonts not showing up, or, the JavaScript's not rendering properly. 99% of it is because you didn't map those assets properly. And a lot struggle with that just because, one, you may not be familiar with HTML, but you may also not be familiar with relative path, right? And so these themes are not relative path in the sense to our asset manager, the relative path to the theme. But, our asset manager is user folder, your user ID, and then the folder that you create for it. And then those are where all your assets live. And so you got to understand the hierarchy of the theme so you can update all of those folder paths. So I chose this one, the Bootstrap 5. Themes that I choose, what I look for, it doesn't matter. It's your own personal preference, but more content blocks, the better, right? So, they have very different home pages. Hopefully my dog is not annoying everybody over here, but, different home pages, all these different content blocks. So the goal for us is, this is a content block. So we're going to use this and ultimately provide this as a drag and drop option so someone can configure their own page however they like. Each of these sections are going to be divided up, and also provide each of these home pages as an option. There's a feature functionality in the builder to where you can select any page to be your home page now. So that's very effective when you're starting to install these themes, to where now me as the regular user who's not going to go in and import my own themes, just want to pick one that I like and I can quickly customize. Because again, I love the idea of building something 100% unique to you, and that's great. But time is money, and if you can customize something quicker with drag and drop content blocks, change the color scheme, theme it out yourself, and manipulate little elements here as you go, way more efficient, way better in the sense as far as a builder. And then advanced users have that functionality to kind of build out something unique, and then hand that over to your client. So again, I just picked this one just because, one, I like the look and feel. Two, there's a lot of already built-in components that we can use, to design to build out this theme. Another tool I use, as a matter of fact, I'm going to create a new share. I never do this because I always have everything open, and this time I actually closed everything. So I'll share my entire screen. Okay. So I use PHP Storm by JetBrains. Any HTML editor out there works just fine. I like this one because it will help you identify if you're not a coder. And one of the things I struggled with 15 years ago even was closing divs. You look at it, all this HTML, and you're trying to troubleshoot why it's broken. Most of the time, it's because you have an open div, or your hierarchy of your section path, whatever. Just your HTML is broken. This tool, really will show you where it's broken pretty easily throughout. There's a ton of benefits to this, especially like hooked up to our branches and development. But At any rate, so the first step is I'm going to open up the first homepage here, and then I'm going to come back out here to Ligna. So asset management, click on the asset manager. So this is where it's probably the biggest mistake that most make, not truly understanding where you're loading these files. Don't ever put spaces in your file names. And I'll tell you why. Our system's built on Linux. And so rendering in the browser may work, but in some cases you may have broken files because it converts it with the, the percentage sign and the 20, for spaces, right? So the browser will do that. So never use spaces when you're building out these themes in your theme asset folders. But what's most important is where this folder lives, right? So this is, where whatever you're going to create, right? So in this case, I created a themes folder. Inside that theme, I'm going to name it whatever it's going to be named. In this case, I'm just going to use the theme that came with Theme Forest. I will change the name. I will update a logo, call it whatever, and that will be the global theme. But for this exercise here, we'll get the base in and end up installing it and using it for everybody throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. I'm just going to call this, well, I probably should have came up with a name first, especially if this is going to be, doesn't matter. I'll change, let me, dang it. I should have done that, because if we're going to make this global for everyone after this, I don't want it to be the theme name that actually comes with the platform. And unfortunately, I'm OCD when it comes to naming things. I spend way too much time trying to figure out a name, but the path is important. So you know what? I'm just going to call it a theme for now. Doesn't matter. That way, the theme name doesn't need to be in the site structure itself. At this point, it's just, it doesn't matter. I'll come up with a name later. So in most cases, you're going to want to come up with your name here, whatever you want, put it in your theme folder. Now you're going to go into that folder and you're going to click on the upload, and then you're going to drag your folders over. So in this hierarchy for this theme, everything sits inside of an asset folder. You're going to want to follow whatever theme is set up with their hierarchy of assets. You're not going to want to come in here and then just drag all these over. That's step one, is going to ruin you, because you're going to have to go back and just alter everything from asset folder. It gets confusing. So just keep everything in asset folder if this is the case. And so you're just going to drag that over and wait for it to upload. Once this is uploaded, you're going to go back and grab your relative path, and we're going to start mapping those. But what's important when you're doing a theme, so this is different. So on the blank themes, you're basically going back to the HTML. Is this done yet? No, not yet. You're going back to the HTML and you're mapping the asset folder. Actually, this one's going to be fun because I'm sure they're doing an import for everything else. So that's something you're going to have to look at as far as your mapping. But, in this case, I would put my relative path here. I would grab this header section and I would throw that in the, the template section of the blank theme. We're not doing that. We're creating a theme to where you can just select in the funnel section. When you add a new funnel, you're going to select that theme and it's going to build everything out for you. And you don't have to mess with the blank theme or anything like that. This is a little bit more tedious because you're just you're changing the paths and copying this and throwing it in the blank theme. We're actually going to assign these assets to the asset section within the theme once this is uploaded. And it looks like everything's uploaded now. Okay, so the relative path is important, even though I just said we're not copying and pasting the head. This is going to be for all your images and content blocks. So you're just going to have this right here, and we'll come back to this step in just a second to when I manipulate the content block. So now I'm going to come over to my theme engine. Like I said, I'm going to come up with a different theme name. So you're just going to name this, whatever you end up naming it. You can put it into, an actual category. The category section shows up if you go into funnels and you click on create new funnel. You'll see this little tag right here. So this is, I envision, obviously, when you only have 4 themes, it doesn't matter. But I envision, a little toggle here to where you're able to toggle based on the category. So that'll come to where, hopefully you have hundreds of themes back here, and you can select the, the category. So that's where that category comes in addition to this little snippet right here. I'll show you where that shows up. Let me finish this out right here. Theme. I'm not going to put it, I'll just keep it sample category for right now. Workspaces, if you just want to organize your themes based on workspace, I'm not doing that. So add your theme. Now you're going to go into that theme. So this is where that snippet comes. So thumbnail, obviously wait until you have the site installed, you've tested it, you've changed out your logo, created your own theme name. Always design a little logo for them. And put it in there, try to make it as unique as possible as far as the name and things like that. So you can put your thumbnail in there, and then you put your snippet, and then your preview link. I love that. You can put your subdomain of your portal back in, right? If you've set up your domain for your portal, we have wildcard A records that you can use subdomains freely throughout the platform. So I would certainly build your own little repository of previews and throw a preview link on it with a subdomain and throw that in here so your clients can click on the preview and see what it looks like. And those are just the settings for the actual, here. Now, this is the asset part. So if you're familiar with installing blank themes, you're coming in and you're putting your relative path and you're grabbing the head, and then you're coming down here below the, above the close of the body, and you're grabbing this, obviously with your relative path, and you're putting that in the template section and saving it. Really quick, really efficient at doing that. But for this training, we're doing the theme side. So there is a bit of tediousness to make this work. You got to add your assets. And Sirius, you said on the chat, it would be awesome to just be able to select all of your assets and have them all added in here really quickly. That's certainly coming. But I want to stress the only assets you should load in here are your JavaScript and your CSS files. You're not going to want to load in any of your images or any of that stuff. You've already loaded all that up in the asset manager. You have there's no reason to do this. So the hierarchy of the theme engine is when you look at this site. So if you were to go into a blank theme in our platform and install this, you're taking these and you're putting this in the footer section or the above the close of the script section of the template engine for the blank. And then you're also putting this in the head section, right, for the CSS assets. You don't have to do that with the theme engine. We actually take these and we know that they're CSS files and we know that they're JavaScript files, and you have settings to say whether you want it in the head or footer of the actual build, and we build it all out for you. So you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's already done for you within the system. So now I need to add my assets. Now, what's important about these assets is you want to put them in the order of how they are. So if you're going to go from top to bottom, the first one here, all this stuff, you don't want any of this stuff. We actually put all this stuff in there by default. You can, the fave icon is actually the profile icon inside your site settings. So you don't need any of this stuff. All you need is your CSS styles. Now with this theme, there's only one CSS file, which doesn't make sense to me. So they're obviously importing all the other CSS files. So I'm going to come over here and open up this style file. And sure enough, you're going to see that it's importing vendors, all the CSS files that we need. Now, the thing that you're going to have a problem with is you'll notice that this is pulling the vendors folder from that file. And sometimes, depending on how this is structured, is not going to pull in all these files from this file. But this is set just fine. You could go and throw your relative path in. So I can come over here back to my asset manager and I can grab this. And of course, it's inside the assets. So I'm going to want to go inside assets, and then it's inside CSS. So that's where the vendors folder is. So I could certainly do this just to save myself a lot of headaches, just making sure it works properly, and put that in there as the URL. And so that's my whole full path to my CSS files. And so I could do that, for all of these, just to ensure the imported link is working just fine. So you want to map all of these appropriately, just like you would in the head, just like you would if they were all there. Most of these are going to have them all here. This is just the ease of use. What's great about this, though, is I only have to import one style sheet to my asset manager. I don't have to worry about putting all of these CSS files in my in this section of the theme engine here, which I'm about to do. Fortunate for this one and everyone else on this call, I only have to do one because it's importing. Next, I just like to remove this stuff up here, obviously, and save that. So another issue is your fonts. You know, after it's all said and done, your fonts are not working. Well, that's because the path here in your CSS file. Most CSS files that are using fonts like this, you know, icon fonts, they're going to live inside your CSS file. You know, most CSS files for all themes are either going to be named style or main CSS. You will have some that have like framework or structure, you know, in a lot of different, you know, cases. But most of these are CSS files for all the plugins that this theme has. And then they just have one master CSS file that's, you know, throughout the platform or throughout the whole theme. In this case, my fonts folder is linked this way. Well, this won't work. My fonts won't show up because of the hierarchy, the way the engine builds, and we're not in the same path or even in the same section of the platform to even pull that. So here on my relative path, just to ensure that we're going, oops, go back. So we have this folder fonts, right? So it's here in fonts. So I'm just going to grab this, the asset section. And again, this in some cases will work just fine, but you'll save yourself a lot of headaches if you just make everything to the folder that you actually have set up in the back end, and you don't have to worry about it. And then hit save. So that's good. One thing that this theme doesn't have, which I'm glad it doesn't, is root variables. Root variables are essentially telling the theme, I'll give you an example on, let's go to Bootstrap. Oh my goodness gracious. So when you look at the code, you're going to see this root variable here. These are attributes or basically variables. They can be named whatever you want, and they're set above your CSS file. In most themes, these are at the top. So here in your CSS file, it'll be up here at the top. That way you can call that variable anywhere in your CSS file for your theming. So your color schemes, your fonts, whatever you want it to be, will be used in all the CSS. So you come in here, if I want to look for like the primary that's in the CSS file, and I search, see how I didn't do all the variables that Bootstrap has, you know, for this particular theme. There's even more here. And so I left those in here, but removed the ones that I wanted to have control inside the builder, which this will all make sense here shortly. But you'll see here, so the color would normally be, you know, one of these, you know, color codes, right? And so that's what would be here. However, you're putting the variable, right, just like that with the name, and that's pulling in whatever color code that you have here in your root variable. And so now you put that in everywhere the CSS is for that particular color. And so now the user can click on our theme tab inside the builder and pick a color, and that'll change everywhere inside the CSS for that color. And so that's what, you know, is really great if you have a theme that already built out all these variables. Unfortunately, which fortunately and unfortunately, this theme does not. So the person who built this theme decided this is the color scheme of the site, and you either like it or you don't like it. And so you see how all the different colors here, you know, throughout, doesn't do us any good for the builder if you're using this theme for other people, because now everyone is forced to use that specific color scheme. And of course, we don't want that. We want to change that. So this is a perfect example that I was able to pick out right before, that we'll show you how to set those and build your own with an existing theme in here. And so that'll be the step after we load the asset. So I confirmed it's a style sheet. It has multiple style sheets in here. So I just mapped all mine. And then now I only have to import this one style sheet, because what I'm importing, CSS and JavaScript, this is what I needed to show up. I need this, just this one to show up in the head of my site. And our theme engine puts this asset in the head of the site automatically for you. by loading it up here. So I'm going to hit the plus button. I'm going to go out and find that theme, asset manager or asset folder, and then CSS. And now I have my CSS file. So I'm just going to grab that and choose it, which, by the way, dumb mistake, not a dumb mistake, but I saved this locally. So nothing's happened. It's still the old CSS file. So I got to go back to my asset manager. If I make changes to the files on the theme on my local computer, now I got to re-upload it, right? So I got to go back into my CSS folder. Now, what's stupid about our asset manager, and I need to fix this ASAP. One, you should be able to edit it. It's built to edit, and there's just some funky thing going on there. I just haven't had time to come back to the editing of this. So I need to fix that. I know a lot of people have complained about that because it'd be cool just to edit this within the system and not have to re-upload it. And another stupid thing is that when you upload this file again, create a duplicate version of it with a different name on it, it won't replace it. So you got to delete it. Typically, I already know what I'm doing. So I'm going to do all my changes to my CSS file before I load it to the asset manager in the theme engine. But in this case, I'm just going to go step by step, and we'll have to delete this file and re-upload it, several times just to ensure we got the latest changes. So I'm just going to re-upload that. And so that's good. So of course, I don't have to delete it over here because it's just pointing to that file on that asset folder, and it's just going to use whatever version is there. So one of the options you have here is head or footer. We obviously want it in the head. When you're going to have a time to change it from head to footer is sometimes JavaScript files need to go in the head opposed to in the footer. And depending on the theme, you would do that. I always put my jQuery, if your theme is using jQuery, I always put jQuery in the head opposed to leaving it in the body, in the footer. But that's 100% up to you on what you want to do with that. That's just my own personal preference. So now I have my CSS file is the only one I need according to this theme because they're going to import it into this CSS file with this import attribute. So now I need to move down to my JavaScript files. So JavaScript, one thing you'll see this on pretty much every site out there is this email decode for most of these themes. Don't need that. I just remove it. Within here, unless you want to hide your email on your site and you want to use that and you can mess with that. I just always remove it. Another thing you'll see in here, you don't need a version over here. We actually do our own version control. But one thing is always here. And by the way, this changed my folders past. This doesn't matter. If I was installing this as a blank theme, obviously this is a Microsoft, folder structure here, not a Linux, right? So, or web-based, that needs to be adjusted. Doesn't matter. If you're not using a system like I'm using, you won't see that. But I would need to alter this if I was using a blank theme because this wouldn't be the actual link. But obviously, since I've loaded into the asset manager and I'm picking the file, it doesn't matter. So a few things, so if I was to move this jQuery up into the head here, this is probably, again, I'm trying to do both for advanced and people who just want to learn how to do the theme. You're probably going to tune yourself out on this one if you don't know what I'm talking about. But I like jQuery being in the top because I add a lot of JavaScript to my stuff that I want to do. I may want to do something, crazy and unique that's outside of the theme. I want to ensure that whatever I put anywhere in the site, jQuery is always called first. That way I can reference it. However, if I move this to the top, the structure of this theme is in order, and this is very important that this order is the same. So I would have to also move Modernizer, this one up to the top, so it sits above jQuery, and I'm going to do that in this example. And then the rest of them, they just have to be in the same order. So you're going to want to add them in that order. Now you can drag them up and down and reorder them in the asset section of the theme. But if you just add them in order, you'll make a lot less mistakes, and you'll be able to go through. This is where Sirius was talking about being a pain in the butt, is having to do this one at a time. This one's not that bad because I only had one style sheet and there's only Well, there's quite a few JavaScript files here. So going one at a time is kind of annoying. And then I've seen others who actually imported all the images and font folders and everything else. I can imagine you're probably like, I hate this thing. So definitely going to have it where you're going to be able to put multiple, but you're only doing JavaScript and CSS files. You're not doing every file that the theme has, only the JavaScript and CSS. So I'm going to go to the JavaScript folder. So you'll see that there's a main folder and then there's a vendors folder. So main.js is the last one. That's super important. As I mentioned, me adding my own JavaScript, I write tons of JavaScript. I just, I don't expect anybody to be able to do that doesn't code in JavaScript. The things that I can do, like from crazy stuff, integrations into different things on the site. And that's the beauty of why I love our CMS so much, is that you have the freedom to really kind of do that. Yeah, you don't have the ability to load PHP files, but you can go get a free hosting account with AWS and load your PHP there, and then simply call out to it with some Ajax to bring that data in, and you can integrate virtually anything, any application or any platform that you want with it. However, I use a ton of jQuery. I do vanilla JavaScript and things like that, but most of the time it's jQuery. So you'll notice that this main.js is the last one here on the theme. The reason why is all of the functions that are built into this JavaScript, which we'll take a look at some of them. Hopefully there's some issues with the theme and you got to troubleshoot that. I'm looking forward to that, hopefully. But you'll notice it's the last one. The reason why is because it's calling all these vendors and plugins here and leveraging these files, and they have to be above for you to be able to call them. Unless you're doing document, load or whatever, there's other ways you can get around that. So that's why I put my jQuery in the top. That way I can call it anywhere in the site, anywhere I want, and use it without having to, manipulate the way I do it to make sure it loads properly and wait for it to load and things like that. So at any rate, main is the last one. So of course, we're not going to load that first. We're going to go into the vendors folder and we're just going to go in order. So Modernizer, going to look for that. 3.6, right? Yeah. So you're going to grab that, just hit choose, you hit add again, and you're going to look for jQuery, just to migrate, hit choose. Again, if you mess this step up, doesn't matter. You can drag and reorder here in the order that you want it to go into. Bootstrap bundle. Okay, waypoints. Which is another point. You may miss one, and you go to work on the theme and things aren't working, and you realize that you missed one, and you got to go add one in. Then you would obviously need to reorder it to ensure that it's loading the same way. Another thing that you may run into, depending on the size of the theme that you have, some pages. Magnificent. Some pages will have other plugins that are not used throughout the entire theme. I always put all the JavaScript files in and I go case by case, and I'll show you how to troubleshoot that and some tools in your browser to kind of let you pinpoint the issues that you would come across that ultimately you don't need to be a rocket scientist to kind of point you in the right direction. And then, of course, then you quickly find out, wait a minute, I'm missing a file. And so you just come back and reload it. And then you will have to reorder it and make sure it's in the right order if you add it later. So scroll up. Okay. Counter up. Yeah. So again, this is almost something that I should on day one should have been like, no, we definitely need to do a multi-slick. Load it up. What is this? Elevate zoom. I'm blind. Oh, there it is. Okay. Swiper bundle. So yeah, if you're familiar with the blank imports, this is and you're really good at doing those, you're probably the only one really complaining about this step right now, because it's so much faster using the blank import, because you're basically just copying this, mass replacing. Like, for instance, if I was doing a blank import, I actually would just have this folder and do find and replace all of it with my asset folder on the asset manager and be done with it. Copy head, copy footer, above the body, grab my HTML and before and start customizing it for a client. I can do those literally in a few minutes. And unfortunately, that doesn't do anything but good for you, because it's quicker, but it doesn't help the client or your clients or your customers who want a easy theme to work with that they can globally change, right? When you do a blank import, you don't get to leverage the font system. You don't get to leverage the theming colors or the drag and drop blocks. It's just, it is what it is. And hopefully you've, manipulated the code enough where it's easy for them to go in and make changes to it. But outside of that, it's really like, hey, I want to build a site for a client, like our white label services. We're giving free high quality websites for free in our white label program. Speed is extremely important to us, right? And then at the end of the day, your client's not really going to go in there and mess with the site. They can if they want, but it's really part of our program where we provide the maintenance and the build of that site. So all depending on your model. In this model, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for anybody to use these themes. And so it's a little tedious to do this, but you'll get the point how much easier it is at the end of the day. And see, I'm rambling on. I don't even know where I'm at. Swiper bundle. Okay, no UI slider. Where's that at? Okay, there we go. All right, and slider. I just do that. Okay, slider JS. Okay, and the last one is the main JavaScript file. So we're going to go back out up to to the JS folder. I'm going to grab that. So that's it. This is as if you did the blank import. You're at that stage now. The blank import, you're taking the head, you're throwing the head in the head template section. You're taking the scripts, you're throwing it in the script section. And then the next step for the blank is to start grabbing the HTML and using that. There's other steps here that we need to take before we get to that stage, one of them being variables. And you don't have to use variables. I highly recommend it because it's really, really cool. And you're allowing all of this to be highly customizable on the fly for even the beginning of beginners of our platform when you use variables. And so variables, like I said, this is a great example. I know the last time I did this, I picked out a theme that had no troubles, easiest thing, easiest import. This one is perfect because there is no variables in this site. So I have to create them. So just create them. You're going to want to open up your file on your computer. And you'll see, right? So there's this color up here. And so this may get a little more difficult for you, but I'll show you how to get these color schemes and what's going on here. So when I look at this, let's just go to homepage 1. Oops. Oh, you know what? I changed all the files. That was stupid. I already changed all the files here. So I'm going to want to go out to the theme on theme forest. Where am I at? Or wherever I bought it. So, by the way, I always do this. Up to you. I keep the original, and I make a copy of that, and I work off of that. I do the customizations. As a matter of fact, I don't even know why I'm doing that. I don't even need to do that. I can just move everything that I've done so far because I've already uploaded it. Oh, no. What am I doing? Okay. Screw it. We're just going to use the one that's online. So prime example, right? I'm manipulating the main CSS file. So my local machine, there is no folder here. This is on our server, right? So it's not going to map to any of these assets. So that's a prime example of what it looks like in the builder when you open it up, right? Most of the time when people install a site into our platform, they're like, oh man, the CMS sucks. It doesn't work, right? The reality is that none of my assets are mapped here, because I'm mapping to a server in a folder that doesn't exist. So what I do, which I didn't do, obviously, is to make a copy of the entire theme into another folder on your local desktop and work off of the copied version, but preview the original version. Because there's a lot of little things you're going to want to do on the preview site like for this step, I want to get the color scheme and everything else. So I got to go back out here and find that theme and go into the online version so I can get the color codes. There's a lot of cool tools out there. Matter of fact, Eddie, that guy has every plugin known to man or woman or anybody you identify with, but they have basically, he has every plugin you can imagine for your browser. He has a really cool plugin that will allow you, and I'll get it for y'all. I don't use it, but I should. It basically downloads all the color codes of the theme itself. And now you have the color codes in the classes of the styles. So then you can apply it to the variable section. Probably a little easier step with that. So Bootstrap 5, like demo. Go out to the home page. Okay. So again, if you had two different copies here on your local machine, you wouldn't have to do what I'm doing right now. So the homepage number one, there's no bar up there with that color scheme, but you can tell that that green is the color scheme for all of this section here, right? So icons, those are different colors, but like this main section here. So what I'm going to do is get that color. And so I'm going to right click here. And I'm going to hit inspect. Every browser has inspect, just right. It doesn't matter what browser you're on, you're going to hit inspect. So now I'm highlighted onto this section automatically right here, right? I'm coming over here to the rules and I see that it's color green 900. And then I have this little color code, right? I'm going to copy that color code. I'm going to go back out to my CSS file and I'm going to control find it. And it's referenced 77 times. So now this is the primary color, obviously, of the theme. And so what I want to do is build my root variable system. And so to do that, you got to come up with a name. So we are going to call this primary color. So back in the themes engine here in the variables section, I'm going to call this primary color. So you're just going to name it like that. It has to be with no spaces. Doesn't have to be lowercase, but for spaces, you're going to put dashes or no dashes, just it has to be with no spaces. I would convert your spaces here, but this is so important to use for you to get it right here, because if you're going to use this in your CSS file and you have spaces and I converted it to no spaces, then you're going to have a mismatch there. So I don't do any conversions here. You just have to know no spaces. It's the name you want. This is the name that's going to show up to the user. So when they click on the themes tab in the builder, they're going to see the name of this variable and they're going to see what it is with the type of it. So in this case, I'm going to choose it as a color type. And then I'm going to go and grab that color. I actually have it over here. And I am going to put that in my value here. And don't need source. I'll explain when you do sources. This is for fonts. And you're going to hit add. And so now you have your variable set. So if I was to add a domain to this site, which my permissions probably won't let me add a domain to this site real quick. Which, by the way, you can as soon as you add the theme, you can come over here and clone it. Of course, when I go into the builder, it's going to look like this because there's nothing in there yet. So I'm going to go to settings. And I will not be able to add a domain. How do I want to do this? Did I install a domain on it? The reason why I can't add a domain, I was going to use Ligna. Oh, we'll just use this one. How about that? Installed my platform. So we have protections with domains, and I've gone back and forth on this. If you're a parent account, system account, whatever, and you installed a domain, you can use this domain anywhere you want in the platform one time. The second you use that domain, a subdomain or whatever, the second you use that domain on a website, it's now tied to that hierarchy. So that one leg, so that parent account child, so any parent or child can use that domain. However, the second you go outside of that to another parent account, you can't use that domain, obviously, for protection of people stealing your domain and trying to use it to build out sites. You don't want that, obviously, especially if you have an awesome ranking website. You don't want someone creating a folder-based site on your domain. So we're just going to call this theme A. And I'm going to go out to that site. And when I look at the source, obviously it's blank because I haven't done anything with it, but I'm going to show you what this looks like. So that root variable that I just set up is being set inside the style sheet, above the style sheet that I've entered. See the order of everything here? Everything looks good, right? Same order. I didn't have to put anything else in. I just added that theme and I went ahead and added it and came in. Oh, you'll notice here there's www. If you're using subdomains, there's a setting in your site, by the way, under SEO. It says www only, right? So that's forcing www to go in there. You're going to want to do no www on subdomains because you're not secure on subdomains. You're only secure, and you'll see that the tracking obviously gets installed automatically for you. We have some global JavaScript for the theme. So there's some cool things that are already happening in your theme that you don't have to worry about doing when you use our theme engine. And now everything's kind of built. So just a quick little tip there. I know I'm kind of trailing off. You know, if you ever look at your code here for your canonical tag and your Twitter image card, this is just the logo section. If you have, you know, your link here to your images, it's going to be www.themea.securemessages.live. That's not a domain on our system because it's a subdomain of a subdomain. And we don't secure those. We only secure subdomains. So you're not going to want that. You're going to want no www. So you got to set that in the theme setting under, the site setting under SEO, just make it no www. If you have a root domain like securemessaging.live or whatever that domain is, and you want it to be only www, you would set www only. I wouldn't do both. That's just, you know, my personal SEO tip. Choose one or the other for it. Either one doesn't matter. Unless you're on a subdomain, it needs to be no www. So again, nothing on my theme, but I just want to check that my variable is showing up for this example and how I use this variable. That's why you got to put it in that way. We're going to add those 2 dashes, which are important for the variable attribute. And then in addition to that, we no spaces here, right? It needs to be a dash or space. And so whatever you put in is going to be what it's put in. So now you're going to take this. And so let me go back out to an example real quick, the bootstrap example that I was showing you. So all of these are in here, right? So they're all set. When you go into the bootstrap theme or into the theme like this is what it is. It's just var, you know, wrapped just like that with your name, with the dashes like that. So if you want to just look up a little tutorial or ask ChatGPT to explain it to you on variables on CSS, but basically you have root, which you don't have to worry about. Our system does that automatically for you. You don't have to worry about the 2 dashes because it's just taking the name that you put in. The only thing you have to worry about is whatever name you're using, you have to be consistent in your CSS file. In addition, you got to make sure that the dashes are there for spaces or no spaces. So it's really the only thing you have to worry about on our system. Get out there and just get your knowledge on just variables, CSS variables, and how they're used, because I'm going to show you how powerful this is. You know, as I mentioned inside of the theme, the site, inside this builder, like, you know, obviously we're not at the stage yet for this to look like anything. But if I click on this tab right here, you see my primary color. So I set the primary color as the color of the theme. So by default, it's going to use this. However, I can override that and pick whatever color scheme I want as a user. And so now you're starting to see I can take this primary color variable and I can apply it to my CSS file. And everywhere where that color shows up in the theme is going to change to this color. And so to do that, you know, like I said, it needs to be this format, right? So var wrapped around with the name that you put in. So I'm just going to do find and replace for that color code that I got off inspect element. So I know the color code of the main color of the theme. I'm going to put that in there, but I'm not going to replace it with that because that's not what I named mine. I named mine primary color with a dash. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do primary dash color. So I'm going to hit replace all. Now my theme is not going to have any of those colors there. And of course, if I look at this locally, it's going to be all jacked up because it's using this CSS file that I've manipulated. That's why it's important to have that copy of the original so you can continue to get all the additional colors. So I'm just going to save that. And now we're going to go to the secondary color. So in this theme, that's the one on my local. Matter of fact, let me get rid of that. So second color, let's see if there's a more prominent secondary color. Okay, so it's going to be this lighter color here. So I'm going to grab that. Like I said, I did inspect element, but it's that little section there. So much like the builder, you're kind of going up your layers here. So you're going to come up to this layer, you're going to come up to this layer, you're going to come up to the, oh, now I got it all. So I should be able to scroll over here and see a color, background color. This is the color right here. All right, so right click, inspect element. Here's all your little layers. Again, you don't need to know HTML, just hover over it till you get to the whole section. And then now you're going to see this background color. This is also helpful too, as you get more familiar with CSS. There may be some things that you just want to customize on the fly. You know, obviously we want to customize everything here. But, you know, if you ever need to access something here like this, right, to see what the CSS is and what it looks like over here. It's kind of how the builder is too, right? So the builder is designed that way. When you select an element, you know, this little tab right here is going to show you your CSS and everything else here within this, which, by the way, this is on the body. This is, you're not going to want to save anything here yet. And it's not done. This is just a little preview here. You're going to see that this obviously doesn't have any code. And I'll give you a better understanding of the hierarchy of the body there on out. So at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and grab this color code. And first I'm going to come over here. I'm going to add my secondary color. I'm going to choose color. I'm going to put my value in. I'm going to hit add. So again, secondary color. Now I'm going to go back out to my CSS file and I'm going to put that in there. And there's 15 references of it. So that's great. And we're going to do secondary. And we're going to do replace all. Again, every HTML editor out there will let you do find and replace, even in Notepad, right? So, you know, it's really all you have to do here other than map and everything else. So there's all these other little color schemes too. So I get real crazy. I'll go through the entire theme and I'll choose all different, like there's different lighter greens. So I'll call this. So in this case, there's color green 500, 100. So that's like the open, you know, just the shade of it here. And so obviously I want to be able to change all of that within the theme. But so those are the two primary colors. Let's go up to these two here. So this is this green. So we're going to grab this one and we're going to call this alt primary, maybe whatever you want. It could be anything you want to call it. I'm just going to do alt primary. Select color, put that in there and hit add. So I have my alt primary. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, and there's only 5 matches of that. Alt primary, oops. Primary, replace all. All right, save that. Let's go to the next one. Oh my goodness gracious, where am I at? Get rid of that. Okay, so this blue. Oops, see, just go up a layer there, and there's my blue. I'm going to call this alt secondary. So again, this takes time. I'm not saying this is just like lightning fast. That's not the point. You're building out, you think about how long it took the people to build these themes and make it easy for you to take it and use it. You're taking it to the next step. Now you're going to make it easy for our builder and users to use this theme. So you got to spend the time doing it. But again, at the end result, I'm telling you, 1, you're going to have another theme in the platform, but 2, it's going to be a theme that you really like that, you know, may want to use for every one of your clients. So you're able to quickly change the color scheme and use a different combination of blocks and things like that to make it work. So I got that color. Let's go to the next. So I've already done that color, the same color there. Oops. Alt secondary. Yeah, so don't want to do that. Don't want to get carried away and go on to the next without replacing it first in your CSS file, because obviously if you don't, it's not going to work. So now it's replaced. Go back out to the theme. And so there's this pink color. So we'll call this, how many times is that pink color used? So I'm going to do, I'll call this, so there's the pink right there on the border. So you're looking for the border attribute and the color. So we've used, and so it's used 4 times. So that's good. We use primary, alt primary. I'll call this third primary, maybe. Again, this could be whatever you want it to be. Doesn't have to. Ultimately, you're trying to make it, again, easier for, for the user to be able to pick that color and know what that color is. Okay, this is my third primary. So if I'm going to go and do Adobe color matching scheme or whatever, and it's going to spit out 6 different colors, and I can choose my 3 different primaries and 3 different alts, and then instantly you have a theme that looks really, really good as far as a color scheme. So third primary. So I'm going to come out here and change this to third primary and replace all. Save that. And then I'll use that other color as a third secondary, which is this pink. Purple. And grab that. Again, so inspect elements is going to show you the color right there. So again, if you're confused, through the HTML or whatever, just look over here on the color and find it, within there. Okay. So that's 5 times. So that's good. Obviously, what sucks is not sucks, but if you put a variable for just this one-off color that they use just for a link or whatever, kind of waste time doing those, just because it's only in one section, maybe just inside one little page of the whole theme. It's not a whole lot of sections that are being used on that. Or maybe the link color. And so it's only used once because it's on the A attribute of the CSS file. So again, if I visually see it, I'm going to grab it because it's likely used elsewhere. In this case, I'm going to definitely put this one in, even though it's only 5. 5 may be like the whole section in a content block that's used multiple times. So this is third secondary. Select color. This is just habit. So this uses select 2 for the drop down. I just always select, even though it's already selected. I don't know, it's just habit I do within there. Okay, color had. So third secondary, let me go out here and call this third secondary. And replace all. Okay, so that, and again, you can, over time, as you go through the theme, I just do the first page I'm on. So I build my variables based on the page that I'm working on. So I'm going to then work on home page number 2, and there may be additional colors in here that I need to swap out, as I go through it. So I do one page at a time and build my variables. So now at this point, I'm done with my color variables for the home page. Likely it's all the pages inside the theme, but as you progress, you may find another color scheme that you're going to want to allow as a root variable. So I'm done here for this. Actually, there's one other color. You see that this is darker right there. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this text. And so there's a darker color right here that I'm going to add. And I'm going to call this, let's see how many. So there's 5 times here. So I'm going to call this, which was the pink. That was a secondary color. I'm going to call this secondary font color is what I'm going to call it. I'm calling it that because it's part of the secondary color and it's supposed to go with that color. So, if you just call it the color, just a random name, what happens in some cases, let's say your button is dark gray and the color of the text is white. And so you just name it color text white. Well, they changed that to red, and now the button text with the black or gray is red. And so now it's confusing as far as what's actually controlling the text on that button. So you want to name it the same, strategy as far as what it relates to. In this case, this is a secondary color, but it's applied to a font. So you just kind of get yourself set up in a way to where you can easily change. It's pretty straightforward as far as what you're changing and add that in. So secondary font color. Can I add here? What's going on here? What's going on with my internet? It's no bueno. Well, wouldn't that be some shit? Like, okay, just a little disruption. Hopefully it was my internet kind of freaking me out. I get super scared about that, by the way, because I'm 0 dark 30 right now. I have all my stuff shut off, so you don't have all these messages. You should see what it looks like on my computers during the day. It's absolutely chaos. And the whole world could be collapsing right now, and I wouldn't even know it because this is the first time I shared my whole screen. And of course, I can't be sharing all these things. I got my phone away, so sorry. My heart just damn near stopped there because obviously, if Ligna ever goes down, that's my day for sure. Okay, so doesn't look like anything saved there when I was doing that. I must have had an internet connection going on, or hopefully. Okay, so nothing saved. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to re-add this. What did I call it? I said secondary font color. Okay, color value. That's the same value, right? Let me just make sure. Sorry, I'm a little freaked out. Okay, cool. All right, secondary font color, got it. Come back over here. And we're going to do secondary font color, replace all. Okay, save that. Now we are going to work on some fonts. Let's see how this theme works with fonts. Hold on. Go back up to the top. We did the font folder. So this one is using open type. So those are the icons. Those are all icons. Oh, you know what? They're importing a Google font. So that's easy. Okay. Well, they are somewhere. Oh, right here. So they're using Shivo, I guess that's how you say that. So I'm going to grab this little link right here. One thing you're going to find is you see this font family, that's for the icons, but you'll come down here to your CSS. Now you'll see it right here. There it is. You can also inspect element. You can just go over here, inspect element, and then you'll see right there, there's the font family right there, right? And so to add the font, and what you're doing is you're adding the default font, and this is going to allow the user to change the font. Some themes have multiple fonts. They may have 5 different fonts. In this case, there's only one font for this theme, and you change it completely out. Now you can get crazy and figure out where all the little sections are for like the subtext and create a secondary font. More time consuming. This theme obviously only calls for one font. Most themes are gonna have multiple fonts, a primary font, secondary font for the text. And so it's the same process. In this case, I'm not gonna do it. This theme obviously works great with just one font. Now, the user is gonna be able to change the font here in just a second, obviously, is what we're setting up. So in this case, I'm gonna call this primary font. Maybe down the road, I get crazy and wanna add multiple fonts to it. And so you're gonna select fonts, and then I copied that source. This is where source is relevant. So source here, and I didn't copy all of it. Make sure you copy the whole link. I believe that's just 700. Yeah, I didn't copy the whole thing. Make sure you copy the whole link. And that's there. And now my value, like I said, you can scroll through and find where it says font inside here, font family, or you can inspect elements, which I did here, and it did the same thing. So I can just copy this. And so you want to copy what's after the colon, right? So right there, if I'm doing it in the HTML, I'm grabbing it right here. right? So that's all I want. I want the default value. And so I'm going to grab the default value and I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit add. And so now I have my font in there. And this is what it looks like. So when you come out to your code, oops, I made a rookie mistake. See how this is double right there? That's because you don't put that in there. You don't put the semicolon after it. You just grab right in between it. You don't grab that. So I have double. Now this wouldn't hurt. The only way this would hurt is if you have more underneath there. But obviously we don't want that. One thing you'll notice is there's no edit button. So you're going to need to delete that. And then you're going to add it back in. Primary font. Font. No semicolon. Rookie mistake. So again, to go back to that step, you're not copying it to the close. You're copying it right there instead of that. And again, just get familiar with what you're looking at here. Like I said, I like putting a test site up on it without all the stuff. It's blank, obviously, but then I just do right click, view page source. And I just kind of want to look at it, just see if any I made some bonehead mistakes like that one. And then of course I got to grab my source again to the font. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this. And I'm going to put that as a source. And then I'm going to add that. And so again, just removed it, right? So it's perfect. So that's the format, right? So it's your name. We add the dashes. We add the colon. We add the value. And then we close it out for you. So you just need the value and the name. Don't put the close on there. All right. So we're good there. So now I have all my root variables, right? So inside my theme, when the user clicks on the tab for theme, they're seeing all my options. They can change out their font. They can change all the primary colors and secondary colors and quickly make this theme look good. So now I have my CSS file done. I need to go back out to my asset manager and re-upload that file because the one online is not the right one. Again, I know this is annoying, but just remove it. Go back up to upload. And I'm going to re-upload my style sheet. So we're good. One thing to note, by the way, a ton of people have problems with this. Cache. So the way the browser works is downloading your assets. And if you're working on a site, you are cached. And so I haven't done anything. Hit and refresh 1,000 times is not going to do anything. It'll reload that CSS file. So you're just going to bang yourself over and over and over again. Like, what the heck? I did this right. Why is it not updating? When you change out a CSS file or a JavaScript file, there's a couple ways you can do it. The coolest way of doing it, I'll show you that first, is inspect element. You're going to come all the way over here to this little 3-dot hamburger menu or whatever, 3-dot menu, and you're going to click on settings. So this is Firefox and Chrome. Same thing when you're in inspect element, there's a section here, gear, I believe. It's just a setting. Find the settings of the console. Click on settings. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. You're going to scroll over to advanced settings. And you're going to click on disable HTTP cache when toolbox is open. What that means is when you right click and inspect element, you're in the toolbox. All you have to do is hit refresh. That'll reload all of your files. So when I do updates and people are like, oh, I can't add this or this doesn't work. And, you know, I'm sitting here like, man, it works just fine for me. 99% of the time, it's because I've loaded up net new files or changed existing files and you are cached. So that's annoying because you have to write, you know, you have to clear your cache across the board and you lose all your other stuff. It's just, it's sometimes people, you know, end up checking too many options off when they're removing everything and they remove their passwords and things like that. So annoying. However, if you do this, all you have to do is hit inspect element, hit refresh when you're in the back of Ligna, and that'll reload. I have been forcing the browser to download that file on previous updates and obviously after the fact of the last update. So not that big of a deal, but you know, if something's acting weird, you know, on any site, or especially ones you're working on, I would highly recommend doing that. So you don't have to go in and remove all your cache and all this other stuff. Just do inspect element, click on the settings, and then just find that disable HTTP cache in the toolbox when it's open. That way you can just right click, hit refresh. Now you get the latest version. So I have the latest version, everything's good. My file is up. So now I have my theme. My theme is good to go. As far as the assets and the variables, now I can start doing the fun part. So yeah, I did talk and ramble on, and it took a lot longer than it should. This is the longest period that you're going to have, is adding these assets, and then ultimately coming in here to your variables and deciding what you want to make easy for the theme itself. In this case, this is going to grow as I go page by page, as I build this out. So now what I want to do is I have my test site. And so my test site's here loaded with nothing in here. So if you're familiar with the Blake import, you basically quickly jumped in, you hit this little template side, you copied the head, you updated your relative path, you made sure everything was linked properly as far as your asset folders, and threw it in here. Then you threw your scripts, which are above the close of the body, and you threw them in here, and took you 4 minutes really to do that, especially to do find and replace in the upload process. So now you're ready for the next step, which is to drop in your HTML that's before the open, or before the body, in between the body, right? So that's the next step. In the theme engine, we want to test this before we start adding those pages in and those blocks. So we want to first test to make sure everything looks good and we don't have any bug issues with the theme that you're importing, because there's conflicts that happen, different things that can happen. And I have no idea yet until I add the HTML and see what it looks like. So my first step, like I said, you have a original version of the theme, and now a theme that you've copied that you're working off of. So in that case, for the sake of being, simplified, and I can already tell you there's a problem here. There's a preloader. I didn't notice it on the theme itself, but we have a little thing that you can do with the theme loader, and this is perfect and a great example. I don't see the theme loader loading, but I'm sure it's there. So now I'm here. So what I do is, just so I don't mess up, I'm going to get rid of the body and all the top part here. Obviously, you're going to want a different version, because if you're previewing the site's now broken. So I'm going to remove that body and all the assets above it and the head. I'm going to come down to the bottom, and I'm going to get rid of all that too. So now I just have the HTML for the index page. That's it. I don't have to worry about messing up and accidentally copying in the body. See, the way the builder works is, if you look at inside the builder, we're basically building out your body to the actual HTML. So when you come in here, you'll see all of the assets that I loaded up. At any rate, basically all we're doing inside the builder is we're taking what's in between the body. We save that and slice it all up and do all the stuff that we do to create the blocks and create everything we have on the back end when we save it to the database. But we parse that from the body. So the body doesn't exist. The body exists in the template engine, and it all gets put back together for you. So if you go and copy the body and throw it in here, your theme is going to look broken, because we're going to add another body. So now you have two bodies in there, and the system's going to be all freaking out of which one we're going to grab and actually start manipulating for you to make changes to it. So super important you don't include the body. Now, there has been many examples of themes that use the body style. And what I mean by that is, if you go into this theme, which doesn't, by the way, I kind of I wished it did, you'll click on the body here and you'll see a class, like names and things over here. What that is a lot of these bigger themes that have like multiple different versions and all this other stuff. The way they do it to allow them to use one CSS file is they'll have classes for the body, like insurance body, or tech body, or chiropractor body, and that's the name they give in the body. And then in their CSS file, they'll have all these classes. See how like body background is white, and there's some styles for body for sure on this theme. It's setting the font family for body. Obviously, we've overridden that with our variable, but all these little styles are applied to body. perfect. It's going to pick up with our theme engine because we're rebuilding the body. However, if there's a class there, we don't know that class and we're rebuilding it just with body. And so you're going to lose a lot of the styles that are associated with the body. So there's a whole nother part. And hopefully next week when I do another theme, matter of fact, I'll find a theme for that. All you do is you change that body to div in your HTML and then update the CSS that has all the body with that attribute and do find and replace all. It's just one extra little step. Sounds confusing, super simple. That way you're not having any of those classes associated with the body. It's only associated with the div wrapper that's around the whole site. But hopefully next week, or will be an example of that next week. So in this case, I'm just removing everything except the HTML in here. And so now I have a clean palette to start to work with. One of the things that you're going to want to do, obviously, is map all these assets. And in this example for this, all my assets that are in here, I have this, the hierarchy is not the right hierarchy as far as the folder path. So that's super annoying that it came like that on my computer. Not sure why or how I did that, but so I am going to need to get creative to mass replace all these. So I'm going to do anything with S and the backslash. Just so you know, like the / backslash, supposed to be a / on all this. So I'm going to hit mass replace all. That's going to give me those, and then I'm going to do the E. You won't need to worry about this in most cases based on your download. It's just a conversion of my platform. Okay, so now my paths are right here. So now I need to go back out to my asset manager, right? And I'm going to grab, matter of fact, I'm going to grab it from here because I'm going to do find and replace anything that says assets. What is going on with my mouse? Okay, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to highlight assets and I'm going to do find and replace. And I'm going to do that. So now everything that I've done is mapped. So all my folder paths from all my images in this theme are 100% mapped within my site. So I'm just going to do Control A, copy, Control C, and I'm going to come back out to the builder and I'm going to throw this in and I'm going to hit apply. And hopefully this loader, so see that? You're just going to sit here into an infinite load. The reason why that's happening is because our system strips off all of the stuff that happens on the DOM. You'll notice here on this theme, when I say DOM, basically what you're interacting with the browser here. When you come over here to this little section here, so this is an owl carousel or slider carousel, one of those plugins. And so this is moving, but there's hidden sections over here. The JavaScript is making them display. So it's just moving across the screen. So when you right click and inspect element, you'll see all this slider, swipe, active, all this stuff that's in here. You'll see all this stuff. That's not in the code. When you go look at the code, none of this exists. You see it all changing. That's the JavaScript changing it. So what we do is we strip all that out. We render it, but we strip it all out on the back end. So when you save it to the database, all this junk doesn't get put into the database and break your site. But the problem with that is if you have a loader, it never gets to the close of that loader because we prevent it from happening. So you can have loaders. It's just one other step you got to do. And this is all about troubleshooting the theme. You're like, oh man, what's going on here? And then you spend hours trying to figure out, maybe I didn't map things right. If you have a loader right here, it's very simple. What you're going to do is you're going to get rid of this loader here altogether. You don't need it. Now, if you want the loader, there's a section to put in the loader in this site itself. I don't have that built as a theme engine for this. Goes back to Steven's comment inside of the chat group about custom attributes and different fields that happen. So we have what are called base templates. So when you build a base template, not a theme, so you've already picked the theme and then you built your site. And so you have all these little attributes that you use. We have tags for like embed tags for your Google Analytics or other scripts that you want to put in that you don't want to be part of the builder. Those fields are where you would put this loader for it to work. So inside your settings of your site, where the heck am I? Where's this site at? Inside your settings of your site, you have this embed section. So head, begin body, end body. You would just throw this loader code in the beginning of the body, and now the loader works. However, you're building a theme engine, a theme for everyone to use. And so these fields here, all these sections here, the values of them you can't use in the theme engine yet. However, the placeholder for those you can. So I could use a tag for the begin of body and then ultimately know to throw that in there, whatever. I mean, there's just different ways you can use those tags, but it starts at the creation of the site and who you share the base template with, not the theme engine. So we're working on that, on different ways to make that cooler, just as far as how you can like have it prepped with all your custom logic. I'll close this training with that. I don't want to confuse anybody. Reality is, the heck you need a loader for? At the end of the day, this thing loads super fast. You're not even seeing the loader. It was there for a second there, but on our site with it, not a big deal. It's kind of cool, but not necessary for a theme, global theme you're making for everybody. Now, if you're just building this inside your platform to use as a starting point for your clients, you know, you would create it as a theme and then create it as a base theme template, and then add the loader in there. And now you can use it when you copy that theme over and over and over, or copy that one over and over and over again. But in this case, not a big deal. So I'm going to come back over here. I actually just need to remove that. Okay. And I'm going to hit apply. So that's going to fix it. And so now I have my whole site here. And you'll notice that these images are not showing up. And it's like, why are these? I thought I mapped everything. And this is a great example. I love this example because even our designers struggle with this. However, if I go out to the site, well, in this case, no, it didn't. This may not be the example. But sometimes your images are defined as a data attribute in the HTML code and not the actual image source. So in this case, I just messed up my sources and where I follow. And it's probably the / and forward slash. So, okay, now I'm going to go back out. So I know this image here, the source is wrong. So I'm going to go find the banner here. And that's the head. That's the video. Okay. So here we go. See how it has backslashes instead of forward slashes. So I need to, and again, this is not a problem that you're going to have. This is just how the conversion worked on my computer. If it did, just remember, it's not backslash. This is a Microsoft folder hierarchy and not a web-based. Oh, that's not, oh, okay. So that's good. Here, let me just spot check. See, here's homepage here. So one. By the way, there's no logic to this. I'm just making it easier so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time going through each one at a time. You know, I'm just getting the last one so I can have a common mass replace. Here. Okay, good. Okay. So my point to the data attribute piece I was talking about before, sometimes you'll see in the code, this is the source of an image, right? So IMG, you know, with less than, the close of the greater than, that's how images show up on the browser. And you have a source that you're connecting to. So this is our source to that image, which is all relative path because it's on our system and it pulls from there. But sometimes your theme will have a data attribute like this. It may be like data img equals that, and the path will be right here. So a common mistake, if you don't do find and replace, a common mistake, and again, it also may have a different path here. It may have a different image that they're going to use based on the responsiveness of the site, things like that. You may not have replaced all those. You may have missed some of those. But anyways, a common mistake is that you just have this map and you don't have that map. So on the live site, it looks great, but in the builder, you're missing an image. In a lot of those cases, it would be like that. If that doesn't matter, in this case, this site doesn't have that. So all looks good. Now I can come back out to the builder and click on source code, click and hit apply. To simplify this, right? You know, I just got the assets that I had, and I put those assets in the asset section. I made my variables, and now I'm just grabbing the HTML within the site. between the body and the open of the body minus the scripts, right? And just throwing it in here. As long as you have it mapped, everything looks good. Now me as a user, I can double click on this image. I can come into, whatever. What they got? Tons of different folders. Jeez Louise. I like, but I can come in here and grab or upload whatever image I want. Obviously I wouldn't pick that one there. I would try to resize it. But in that case, I can manipulate anything I have here. Everything works within the builder. The link to the video, come over here, settings. I can change out my YouTube video. These are obviously little things you're going to want to do. If you're going to be putting these themes out here, you're going to want to put your own logo in here. You're going to want to put your, change out the YouTube video links. So they're actually YouTube video links that I usually do just like nature or landscape. So it's not like actually the theme overview. But everything in here from the different images you can scope out. But more importantly, now your theme engine, if I want to change, let's say, well, let's go to like this color here. That's going to change out everywhere on the site already, right? So there's all my color schemes. So, I want to make this whatever I want. Everywhere where that's at is changing. So you'll notice the background here didn't change. So I'm missing. It changed here, changed there, but I'm missing, and it changed there. I'm missing this one. So that's an example of where does this color scheme live in? Is this in some other file out there, another CSS file? So this is part of testing the whole site, making sure all the sections that you have are changing as far as color. Of course, I'm not going to save this. I just want to see. So now I got to go back out to that site and figure out where does this color exist. I'm going to go back to the site, inspect, banner. There it is. It's banner hero, banner 1 with this color. So that means it's pulling from this class. And I want to know why is it a different color? So there it is. There's a color. So they have this one color that they decided on 3 times, they decided to use this color opposed to the main primary color. Well, I don't like that. Or secondary color. I want the secondary color to be all the same. So I'm just going to change this to secondary color and replace that color. So you may have different hues. There may have just been a lazy effort by the theme designer to do a slightly different color for just the banner or maybe one other section, and it's not working. And you're like, well, what the heck? Why is it not working? The reason why it's not working is because it's a different color than the main color or the secondary color that we set up. And so when we did find and replace, this color wasn't replaced because it's a different hue. So I'm going to make it the same hue and simplify it. And I'm just going to, instead of creating another variable like secondary alternate lazy hue, we're just going to call it secondary color hue or color. And then because I saved my CSS, again, you got to do the annoying part and delete this and re-upload. And of course, this comes back into the cache issue, right? It's not going to update in the browser. It's not going to update, and it's not going to update in the builder because your CSS file is cached here. So even if I were to hit refresh, and so now, well, mine just refreshed, but in some cases this may not happen. That's blue because I set it to blue over here, right? Anytime you want to get rid of that, okay, I'll go back to the default. But so now it's blue, so I'll change it to green. Everywhere where it's at, it's changing green now. So this is where that secondary font color is. That's why it was important to do that, because that looks like turd. So you're going to come over here and change that, to whatever you want. Maybe white, different hue there. So you change it. So pretty cool. So you see these little icons here. They didn't change, they're green, and it's same text. So it's like, hey, I can't get to that to make an alternate change there. This is where the layer piece comes. You can go up a layer and now it's there. And it's like, I still can't get to it. What's going on here? So you can go and click on your little layer thing here. And it looks like you can turn on and off. It looks like that whole thing, which is interesting. They must have some sort of style that's doing that as far as this thing. I don't like that. That's not going to be easy for a user to change. And so this theme person, whoever built this theme, is putting this in here as a before or after style. And I don't like that. I want to remove that. So the reason why I don't like that is you may not want it. You may not want to use that. Now, of course, the user can just come in here and delete that and then add their own style or drag over their own little text box and do whatever they want to do. But this is not, that's not, you just want to get rid of that. In my personal opinion, there's little things like this little piece right here. Cool, but maybe some don't like that. These little pieces here. I'll show you where there's at and how to access those. In most cases, it's just a little image. Where's this at? So that's just text there. It's just a little image, whatever. Of course, you're not moving it here. You're going to remove it from the base of the code that you have in here. But I don't like that. So I'm going to do inspect element. And so that's the heading. And it's easy, a little style called icon leaf that they have in there. Okay, so they're basically applying an icon class to the H4. So now if I remove that, I can remove it. And this is part of the theme training that you would do. So it removes. You could also do that for the user as far as theme training. They can click here and then they can click on this little brush here and they can remove it right there. They could also put on this theme, which is icon. I'm sure there's all sorts of icon, right? So I just changed that to home. So this one uses, that's the last part that we'll talk about on the icons of how we can get these icons being used as the default of the theme that you have. I have a little way of doing it on the back end. I haven't extended that functionality yet, so I will after this call. For you to be able to do that. But basically, it's going to be a setting in your theme that you'll be able to choose the font resource asset for the font. But here, this, I'm not sure what icon, well, I can take a look. They are using UIcons. So I'm not familiar with them. So I can go out here to UIcons. And that doesn't make any sense. So I mean, is this flat icon for real? No. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what plugin they're using for their icons for this. In most cases, it's just one that or you can easily search. And then you have all the attributes that you want to use. So when you're like kind of building this out and making normal little icons, of course, they could drag over the default icons from the system in here and not use these. But I just don't like having those in there. If it's not easy for the user to come over here and do that. I mean, it is, if you did a little training here, it's just like, hey, I'm going to remove it. I can remove it. I can also we all know it's this, and then you can provide all of the, different ones that they have, but I'm not familiar with this one. So I don't know all of the naming attributes from icon dash to that to be able to do that. So in that case, for me to make it easy for the user, I'm going to find icon leaf and I'm going to remove all those. Replace, get rid of that class. And I'm going to come back over here. And again, this is just my testing site. So this is not ultimately what is going to be done. What I want to do is test everything here on my home page, make sure my color changes are happening, make sure everything that I got going on is working as it should. And my primary color is not changed. So it's still the same one. Let me just make sure I'm pretty sure I looked at every one of this. Primary color there, and I'm going to just change this to whatever, this to whatever, this to whatever, and that, and then let's change the font just to make sure. And so my fonts. Okay, so my font's not working. It doesn't appear to be working. So I'm going to go troubleshoot that. So I'm going to go back out here. So I have my primary font. Rookie mistake. I never replaced all the fonts, the names that were the default. So I'm going to go back to my CSS file. And where's the font? Right here. So I never did this, right? So I created a variable. This is, again, I do a lot of these. I mean, I built the damn system. So it's easy to forget. But, and again, I talk to myself a lot, but I don't normally talk this much when I'm doing it. But primary font, I never replaced it, even though I have it in there and it's working just fine because it's still using the default. So I got to copy that or just, replace that. And I want to replace this with primary font. All right, replace all. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now I'm going to go back out to my asset manager. And I am going to remove the CSS file once again. And delete. Yeah, I think by next week, we're going to have an edit feature and actually have replace when you upload, because clearly this is quite annoying. Okay, so now I've uploaded that file. I'm going to hit refresh. And all my fonts change, right? So all throughout. So now in the theme, when I change my fonts, which by the way, when you change over here, this saves for you. You don't have to hit the save button. This is like live saving for you on here. So now everything's changing now. So that's too cool. Yeah, so it looks like this particular theme has certain sections that change with. Okay, so it looks like they're using, so this is where you go into this scenario. Maybe I want to do a secondary font because they're using a base font for this because this is not changing. So I'm going to come back out here to my main site and I'm going to look at what is the font name for this. And they're using Noto Sans. I didn't see that option there or where it's at. So, I wonder where they have that font. So let me go into a few of these real quick. So select animate. I mean, am I blind? Am I missing something here? Which, by the way, you don't necessarily have to use their built-in version here. You can actually add whatever you want. So let me go in here to this one. Maybe it's being imported. One of these. No. Okay, so it's not, but I'm going to show you how to do it without it. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to go out to most cases. This one is called just Noto. Okay, cool. So all I have to do is just grab, and in most cases, it's just Google Fonts, but you're going to find I have like Adobe font, other stuff like that. I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to change this to just Noto right here instead of Evo. And I'm going to come back into my variables section and I'm going to add secondary fonts and select font. And I'm going to put the source. Oh, shoot. Blind as a bat. There it is right there. Noto Sans. They've combined it. So in this case, you're not going to want both of them in there. You're going to want to split those. So you see how they did it as one, and they're using fontsbunny.net. So this is interesting. It's not even a Google font. I've never heard of them. So that's interesting. This theme is using that with this. Me personally, I like Google Fonts because they're more reliable on the CDN here. I've never heard of fonts.bunny.net, but you also have to realize that now you're outlinking to some other system. And if it's not like, a highly respectable system for their CDN, I usually don't want to use them. So in this case, there is a Noto version for Google Fonts. And then if you go out to Shivo Google Fonts, I'm sure there's one there too. Yep. Okay. So on Google Fonts, you have your same download file or download link. You don't have to download all this stuff here. At most themes, you'll see it. So you have what it looks like is on our theme here. So your Google Fonts, you just have fonts, all this right there. When you grab the link from Google, it's just family name with the name after it, right? So in this case, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to redo Shivo. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So primary font. I'm going to do font. I'll come back to the value. And then I'm just going to change this to the name of Google, right? So Google's Shivo, so capital Shivo. And then I'm going to go out to my, where is it at? Dang it, I already mass replaced it, but it was Shivo. What the heck was it? I'll redo that. Okay, so I'm gonna grab that. I was just looking for the original, right? I already replaced it. I'm going backtracking. So you're gonna, that's why it's helpful to keep another version. I just, undo there. Boom, hit add. So now it's fine. We're using the Google version of it. We don't need to use this font bunny or whatever. I've never even heard of it. I don't want that as part of my CDN hierarchy of images or of resources that are going out there. Obviously, we trust Google and rather have Google on that. So definitely using that. Let me go ahead and grab, where am I? It's just somewhere. Let me grab this again. Again, you can grab this straight from Google. Somewhere in here, one of your links, you can look at it. They're all the same. Or you can just do view source on what we got. So Noto here. So now I want to add this as my secondary font. And do fonts. I'm going to do the value, and I'm going to replace that with oh, that needs to be my source. Now I'm going to go out to where it has Noto, and I'm going to grab that right there, and hit add. So now I have to do my find and replace and re-upload my CSS. So let's do the Shivo first. Okay. And this is primary font, so replace all. Go down and find that Noto. Grab that. And we called it, surely I called it secondary font. Oh my gosh, see that mistake? See that right there? The heck is going on with me today? I'm gonna remove that. And I'm gonna add it again. Primary font. I had spaces in there. You don't want that, right? So source, this is and then the value was, done this enough times now. Oh, right, and then I can move that up and down if I want, right, to have that load. Seemed like they had Shivo and then Noto next. Doesn't matter. That's still going to get loaded up. And then, of course, on my thing now, it's going to add both of those, right? So my fonts for Noto, and I have already overridden my primary, so we'll remove that in the builder. Here, let me remove that on the font. Oh, you know what? Let me go back to secondary file, save. Let me get this loaded up and refresh real quick. So I don't normally make this many mistakes, but I'm sure you will. You're doing it your first time, right? And again, it's just it seems like it's a long time here. It is a long time, much longer than using the blank theme. But again, the end result is so much better. You know, I've been doing this for an hour and 49 minutes and probably talked for about an hour of it, slowing me down. So not terrible to do. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my builder and just test secondary, make sure secondary works. I already know primary works. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to just change that to that. And it looks like my primary font and secondary font are backwards. Is that changing? So not changing, not sure why. So I got to go back out and figure out what mistake I did. So I have secondary font, I have primary font. I have that showing. So my secondary font. Oh, see that? Losing my mind here. Can't believe this. Didn't find and replace. Place all. Okay. And once again, got to go back out to my asset manager, delete. Or the heck is mine? There it is. All right. Upload. Drag it back over. Okay. Now I'll go back to the builder. Again, the whole point of that here is to have your secondary and primary font changing, and see now it's changing. So now I can come over here to my secondary font, and whatever I want it to be is not going to change, which is cool. You want them to be able to control that. I was surprised that this theme had one font across the board. That didn't make sense to me. And it turns out they're combining the two fonts with Font Bunny, which I've never heard of. So I split those out and went and did Google Fonts. That way, you know, it's a much more reputable domain that's relying on your website to load, right? I mean, if you have a linking out to this little Font Bunny and they may be huge. I don't know. I've never heard of them, but you're linking out to them and let's say they're down. Well, guess what? You're down, right? So you got to be really careful as far as who you're linking out to on your site, especially when it comes to like stuff like that. So all icons work. Everything looks good here. This is dark. So my primary font here, which this is just alt secondary. Alt secondary. All right, same color here. Oh, I can just change it and see if that. Yeah, so alt secondary. So in this case, I may want to make it a little easier for the user to be able to change this out to a darker shade and not be worried about, you know, these colors. So what I would normally do in this case, you have like secondary, alt secondary, and then we did secondary font color. So I may want to do this as the secondary font color. I may want to come up with another name and do it. You know, I mean, this is just getting overboard as far as like trying to move to the fun part of this, you know, almost 2 hours in, but you get the point. Like you're going to come in here and they may choose like a different version. And again, all the text here is black. So you may want to add another variable and get real crazy and have a bunch of variables down here so you can make it even easier changing. Of course, they can certainly come in at any moment and go over here. If they do pick a file, you know, as far as the color, I mean, pick a background color that's too dark, you know, they certainly can come over here and change out their own colors. I mean, you don't have to get ridiculous here. I mean, yes, people have struggled with the builder, but I mean, come on, you don't have to make it that you know, easy for them, but you could if you wanted to. I'm not in this case. I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay, so now we're good. Homepage is great. So now what do we do? So you have a couple options as an advanced user and as a regular user. If you got this far, you're doing a heck of a job. You're no longer a beginner. However, there's something really cool about our system, which are called global blocks. Global blocks are so each page, you don't have to come in here and configure your navigation. So what I would do, you know, we're not going to do this right now. This is a secondary piece that I will follow up and be more efficient on these calls as far as training standpoint. But I would already have my defined pages that I'm going to want. I did one the other day. I need to release this. So this is Thrive. If you went to this theme, there's 10 different versions of the homepage. There's all these different tabs and just like this one. So this theme has just all of these, service 1, service 2, pricing, all this stuff. You don't need all that. In my opinion, don't create every page like that, because you're creating blocks of all those sections. Let the user create their own page and drag over what blocks they want. So that's the easiest way of doing this, but it's, you're adding more blocks for them to choose from. And here under, let's say, this example, well, I have inside page 2, 3, and 4. The reason why is because this particular theme has several different style home pages, meaning the navigation changes like this. In this one, the navigation goes like this, and the background here is wide. So it's like, alternate changes. This is where the global blocks become extremely valuable, because you can make a global block for all the different navigation styles. You could even create blocks for each of the navigations. That way they can drag over whatever navigation they want to use. In this case, I made it as simple as possible for this theme. You got to look at your theme and say, oh, how am I going to make, you got to, 1, know the theme engine, and 2, what's your end result for the user? I want my user to quickly be able to come in and pick whatever style they want for their theme. And then once they pick their style, then they got to pick an inside page. And surely, and I haven't finished the inside page on this one, but there are each of these inside pages that are in here. So this one's not completely done. You just need to add them into the HTML and the pages for this theme. So each of the inside pages have the corresponding navigation. So if they chose homepage 1, they would have all the internal pages to choose from. Now they can mix and match if they like, but you'll see that there's 4 home pages and there's 4 inside pages. That's because each inside page matches the homepage theme as far as the navigation and footer structure. That's about as much as I do as far as these pages. I'll do a service page, which I didn't put in there, and a contact page. And then the blog is obviously part of the blog builder. So in this case, this is about as many that I want to put in. And in this example, I'm not going to have all these pages in here. That's ridiculous. It's going to take you way too much time, and it's unnecessary. You're already going to spend the time building all the content blocks for the site. And so what you want is, to decide on what you're going to do for your navigation. In addition to that, you want it to link properly. So our link structure is folder based. And so if you name the page homepage 1 with a space and a space, that link is actually homepage 1 with dashes instead of spaces, all lowercase. And so the next step is to start configuring your navigation. So you're going to go back out to your HTML. And you're going to go up to your navigation here. And this is all homepage 1 with index.html. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it. And I'm not even going to have these dashes in here. I'm just going to call it homepage 1, homepage 2, homepage 3. And I've already kind of looked at the theme. I've decided what pages I'm going to show. So as a matter of fact, in this theme, this one's pretty easy. Where is that? There we go. Homepage 2, right? Navigation is all the same here. Homepage 3, it's just different versions up here. Homepage 4. Now this is where it gets, interesting as far as it changing the navigation. This is where you're going page by page and trying to figure out, do I need to create a whole nother inside page for this type of background? So you see how this is white now, opposed to this one, which is dark. Now, good theme designers, it doesn't matter. Your navigation is always the same, and it's what's wrapped around that navigation that ends up changing this, or the ultimate, the end result as far as like the header. So in this case, beautiful example, header style 2. That's what's deciding what the styles are going to be for there. So for me to simplify this and have different versions, my global block is not going to be the entire header. I don't want it to be the entire header, because if I do, then it would just be for this style. Now, I say that, depending on the theme, you may have matching inside pages. In that case, you would make the whole header a global block. You just call it header style 1, header style 2, which I'll get there in a second. If you haven't done that yet, you know what I mean. So I'm just going to go through a lot of these little inside pages and just see. Yep. So that one changes to that. And I'm just going to look what they're calling this. So this header style 3. So they are mixed matching. So in this case, I just want to see one that's header style to that's white. So in often some cases, here we go, perfect. So this is an inside page option that you have. So I'm going to do it that way because this theme is built that way. I have a lot of mixed matches. So in my case, I am seeing, well, an easy way of just figuring out each of these. So that's none. This is the default. So let me go back to this one and grab header style. So close all these real quick. So I'm going to go out to the CSS file. And I'm going to find that there are 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them. So I'm going to have 5 internal pages is how I'm going to do it. Because I'm going to have an internal page with header style 1, internal page with header style 2, 3 and 4 and so forth. Because I want you to be able to quickly choose a page with that header style that matches the home page that you have chosen. And so it's simple for the user to figure that out because they choose a home page. Now they're looking at their internal page and say, oh, I want to clone this page from here and use this as my starting point. However, you want to provide it with global blocks. So if I did a global block for this here on this particular homepage, I would normally do the entire header and make that a global block. But now, because I have different header styles, I have to create multiple global blocks. So I have a global block for header 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so that's going to be your naming conventions for all of this, including this right here. So here I'm just going to quickly build my navigation. This is painful. That's just / homepage 1 is just, we'll just do, yeah, that's fine. / By the way, our linking is folder based. So / will always take you to the home page. If you leave your link, for instance, homepage 2 here, and you do it just like this, right? Because our system is going to do dashes for spaces, and you just leave it like that, it'll work one time. But the second you click on it again, it'll do homepage 2, homepage 2, homepage 2, and you'll have this folder of home pages that never ends. And you won't ever get back to that page unless you go back to the homepage and click it one time. That's because it's not relative path with absolute, right? Absolute path here. So you're, boom, that's it. Just / that's your link. So you're helping out the user or the person who's going to clone this theme or start with this theme. You're setting up the navigation already for them. So they can browse through it on their live site and choose what they want. And then the linking format's already there for them. So again, I know I'm going to name these pages homepage 1, homepage. Matter of fact, I'm not going to name it that. I'm going to name it home. And I don't like that. Doesn't matter. This is just ridiculous. Maybe even me saying that. Okay, so home. Now I'm just going to copy this and remove all these HTML links. A lot of people make this mistake, and it's fine if you're using a blank theme. Because the most annoying part of QAing is clicking on every link. And I can't tell you, even on white label services, it drives me nuts. I mean, I don't QA sites because everyone will hate me. I'll just be throwing up on everybody, and not in a mean way, just like inside my body is just crushing because I can't take it. Can't have a site go out with these links because one, I'm SEO mindset. And your first chance to get indexed with your new site is probably your best chance on the planet to kind of get you overnight success in some cases, as far as what you currently are today. And you have these broken links. Now you got to spend time with 301 redirects and all this other bullcrap. Anyways, don't set your users up for failure by being, kind of doing it in a lazy way and leaving your links in there. Make real links. That way it's easy for them to change and the site works so they can go and browse throughout. Another thing here, you're going to want to remove that. Now you may want to be, awesome and put like the company tag in here. All the tags work, by the way. To Steven's point on the chat, he does some awesome stuff and, actually worked with me to push a really good feature out that's, to his point, it's probably underutilized, but, he creates custom variables, just like the CSS variables. He creates those for, at the funnel level and at the profile level to make it even easier for the user to come in. The problem is the only tags that work in the theme engine are going to be your base tags, such as, the social tags, the company name, the phone number, all that stuff. So you may just want to make it even easier and just do all the alt tags with the company name, make it easy for them to change. But in this case, I'm just going to remove them all with the theme name. And so there I go. I have my home pages linked. I'm good to go. I know when I create each home page, I'm going to name it. And then I'm only going to have one about page. There's no, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to have, excuse me, what am I talking about? I'm not going to have an about page. I'm going to have inside page is what I call them. Just so I'm going to give my example of what the inside page is. Goodness gracious. Okay. So I have 5 header styles. So I need 5 inside pages. And again, the whole point of this is just so the user can pick. You could also do the header style as a content block that they can drag over. Certainly can do that, make it, less on your side as far as like setting this up. Inside one, I'm just going to call it inside one. How about that? And then inside one. And I need 5 of these. My gosh. 2, 4, 5. Yeah, so you see how it highlights here. If I were to break that, it's going to show you that little thing that, hey, it's broken. I'm telling you, the simplest things will drive you crazy. You don't want to close something out and you spend hours upon hours wondering why something's broken. It's just because you had fat fingers and or didn't get lined up when you deleted. Okay, so that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do inside pages. I don't need, I could build a pricing page. Now, what you could do is like build out a whole framework of what a site would be. Now, if you're going to do industry themes, right? So you may want to build a roofing theme that has all the pages you would want as a roofer, metal roofing, all that stuff, and actually put base content in there for them to, change out. You could do that too. But when you're building like a global theme that makes sense for everybody, there's no sense of creating all these pages because they're going to create them themselves. Just make sure you have the content blocks for them. And in this case, I'm just going to remove everything but blog. So you'll see that there's drop downs here. It has children. This is just part of knowing how navigation works. In most cases on an HTML standpoint, you're going to want to remove that because it doesn't have any children or drop down options. You want that because in most cases, I'm going to put a contact page in there too, just so the navigation looks okay. See that little caret for the drop down? That's triggered because it says has children, and of course the JavaScript's looking for this. Doesn't mean if you don't have any of these here, it's not going to drop down this white box. It'll just have that little caret on there. So you want to remove that class. And if you're not familiar with class, it's class equals quotations with the name. That's the name we're referencing in the CSS file that applies the styles. When you're in the builder and you're using the style manager, it's just like I was doing on the DOM. So you select something here and you use this style right here. What this is doing is applying all these attributes. So you're seeing in the CSS, all these little names for color and background colors, using all of these, applying it to this particular section with an ID. It puts it in the background and saves it into our platform. So when it loads, it actually loads last. So here, right here, all your custom CSS would load here last. So it overrides everything in the theme. So as you get familiar with CSS, that's the, again, that's just the hierarchy of it. It's going to load last. One thing about our builder, we don't do inline CSS. It'll always apply an ID and always apply it into that section, which is challenging, by the way. If you clone your page and start from a clone page and start messing with the design from that one section, that's because you have issues with that because it's the same ID. Now we have safeguards in there. We're now saving that to a certain CSS layer for the page only. So thanks to Salvador, we've been able to add that into the functionality, but that's the reason why you're having those issues, because we don't do inline CSS. We actually apply it to a CSS file. Anyways, I'm just header style. So, okay. So navigation, Let me add a contact page. And we'll start doing global blocks on how you can do that. Okay, so now, and then the footer, you got all these links here. Might as well just clean this up. I mean, again, you're going to want to remove these HTMLs and just put an number sign in there. You can link up all the full, you can put all that in there, but I don't do that. You know, at this point, once they get through and start clicking on the link, they can change this out themselves and change that in the side. I, of course, want to remove, we have a tag for year. So you can do year. Save them. Some have CSS and JavaScript automatically that just have a class there, just depending on. And then I'm going to remove all these little links. A lot of times your theme will have like links to their social media. You know, that's not ideal being on your theme engine just because as much as I love to promote them, definitely cause confusion. And they just have out to LinkedIn. That's cool. I'll keep it like that. Okay, so my footer's good. See this email protection stuff here. First off, you don't even need that. You can just put email@email.com. Customer can decide to do that if they want. And then you can be even more nice by just doing mail to email@email.com. Okay. So this is all footer too. So I'm just cleaning up the footer because all the header and footer right now because I'm setting up global blocks. And all that looks good. So I'm going to grab that, go back out to my source view. Apply. I really hope there's nothing going on. This is probably the longest I've been 0 dark 30 for sure. I'm sure someone would interrupt me right now if there's something crazy going on. Okay, so this theme is actually one I hate, and I'll tell you why I hate it. There's a mobile version, a mobile menu. I hate these, but the good news is it's just a little explaining of how to edit a mobile. See how my menu's like that, but the second I go to mobile, it's all that junk in there within it. So my mobile here is different. It's all those different pages, which by the way, depending on your theme resolution here, on the changes here on your menu, it may not be responsive there. Just drop over to the tablet view if it's all cut off there. You can look at it on your phone. It's going to manipulate the way you want it. For most of these themes, they compensate based on the resolution. So they may not have the resolution that small to change for this actual theme, but no biggie. Your mobile navigation will change on the tablet version, and you'll see it's none of those that are on there. So this is like the dark side theme. A lot of people complain about that just because like, I changed my menu and on mobile, it's not, it's not there. The reason why is because this theme calls for its own mobile menu. So I'm going to want to create another global block just for the mobile version. That way they only have to edit it once. So if I'm the user, I make my changes here, I'm clicking in, changing my name. I'm going over to my link. Maybe I'm linking that page, or I'm linking this page, or linking this page. You see the links over here in your settings. And I've made my whole navigation I want to clone, if you're not familiar with like the cloning part, see how that didn't work. That's not good. It's because you're not on the right layer. So you got to go up a layer and now you're there. That kind of stuff. I have a training video on that. There's the little things that having highly flexible as far as how you put these into the platform are a little bit harder to understand, but once you get it, it's easy as pie. However, when your users does this and they got their navigation perfect, you'll get complaints like, hey, my mobile navigation is not there. The reason why is because it switches to a whole nother mobile for your mobile view. So the user has to customize two navigations, one on the regular view and one here. But you don't want to have to do that on every single page. That's where global blocks come in. They only have to do that once once they edit and change, and it changes across the board. So you're going to want to set up global blocks for the user just to make it easier. Now they, of course, can create their own global block. And I'll show you how to do that and just the understanding of what layer you're on and what you're actually doing. In this case, I'm going to do inside page. So here I'm just copying down. Most cases, you're going to want to just work with what's there. But in this case, has children, has submenu, has children, has submenu. I can actually just grab everything that's here and bring it down. So that is one thing that is good. Or you could also do, I didn't think about that. You could also just create your global block just as your UL here for main menu. And so you could have that global block here and the global block there, and it will rotate and it'll change both of them at the same time. So you could actually do that way. However, we want different headers, right? So we have different header styles. And so we want multiple header styles. And so to change all of that at once, you could do a menu global block and then just do it that way. I guess we could try it and do it that way. So you can get creative with this. You don't necessarily have to do it. And this one does nav, and this one does nav with a class. No, so you would have to do the UL. This UL is main menu. This UL is mobile menu. So you would have to do it in between the LI, and that might break it by putting a div inside here, depending on the theme. So anyways, the more you get used to this, and if you're an advanced user and you're familiar with HTML and code and stuff like that, you'll know what I'm talking about making it easier for the customer. But like I said, or for whoever's using this theme that's not at the code level, like I said, it's not very difficult to change your view, edit your navigation twice, opposed to having an edit on every single page. So now that I have that there, I have the mobile menu and I have the main menu here. I'm going to just refresh, put my code back in there just to make sure everything's cool. Hit apply. Okay. So, like I said, hopefully everybody that's, and look, my image here is not mapped. Wonder what I did. Probably did a mass replace. Okay, so image, home. Oh, see what I did? I changed home page that they had, right? They had it called home page, all lowercase, and I changed it to home. So stupid little things like that you do just because things annoy you, but now you got to go back out to your asset manager. I was already there. And I got to go into that theme in here, back into assets, images, page, home page 1 is what it's called. So I'm going to fix all of these real quick. Page, home page 1. Yep, that's it. Okay. Okay, I try to speed up time by doing mass replace. That's why, a lot of times again, most of the time it's because you messed it up. I'm not saying the builder's perfect. Most of the time it's because you messed it up. Because I even messed it up, right? Importing these in. Okay, so 2 ways to do a global block. Again, if you're building themes and creating them, you got to know HTML and CSS if you're putting these in for everyone else to use. And the goal is obviously for the people who don't know HTML and CSS to access them. I'm not saying you have to know everything about HTML to be able to do this, but every week, hopefully you can learn from me, and it's just kind of free will on HTML to learn. As a user, you can, as someone who doesn't do that, you can create global blocks by just going over here and clicking on this global block icon, naming it, that's a global block. Most of the problems that everyone have with this is they think they have the whole section they want, and they don't, especially on the navigation. If you're building, a global block for the navigation. This case, if you wanted the nav to be wrapped, that's great. You do a global block. Again, if you don't know about the other internal navigation, you should know that because you're installing the theme. But in most cases, somebody's like, I want to make this a global block, this section. Well, I'm not on the top part of that section, right? Even though I'm here, a good way of doing it is clicking right here on the open code and you'll see that I'm on the banner here. So in this case, I am. I can make the banner here. And if I go up, now I'm in this section box, which is the entire thing. So no, I'm not, right? This is a section. So you got to go up to the layer and create a global block. So, you know, it's interesting on how it's used. In most cases, if you're just kind of like in this section, you want to reuse this section somewhere else, or you create a sub navigation and things like that, it's not a big problem. But I've seen, you know, people use the global block system in some really cool ways, and they struggle with it a little bit because they're not getting all the code that's necessary. They didn't go up enough layers. By the way, you can go to the layers center and not the code. You can click on this, and you can know if you're at the top layer. You see, I'm not at the top layer. This is the top layer, but it's for this whole section if I want to make that a global block. But if I want to make this section a global block, you know, this is the whole section right there. This is the whole section for all of it. This is the whole section for that section if you want all this spacing and everything else. You can just copy this, by the way. If you want to use this in another section, you can hit this, and that copies that code, and you can go into the other section of another site, and you could actually use the widget here of the custom code and just put it in there and drop your code in like that and hit save, and that's going to bring it in right like that, right? So you can do it that way too. So there's a lot of different ways to use, you know, these the blocks to reuse them. At any rate, I'm going to set up a global block. I'm not going to do it this way. I'm on the header. I want the whole header. I could, but I don't want to save anything yet. I'm just prepping my code for my theme page. That's all I'm doing. I'm just testing stuff out. So on my layer up here, all the global block does. So what's cool about PHP Storm is you have these little things here. So to ensure that you're wrapping your section properly. Now the system, like I said, there's layers, and you got to know what layer you're on and ensure you have the right global block or whatever you want to do for your global block. Same thing goes here if you're going to work with the code. I can't count how many times someone's put in a global block and closed out their div and didn't get the whole thing. Headers are easy because it's just header to close a header. In PHP Storm, you can just click on that and it'll bring you all your div, and then you would wrap it. So in this case, it's just a div. The ID equals global dash whatever you want, no spaces, you know, just whatever you want. So in this case, I'm going to call this one header, and then I'm going to put that, and of course it automatically closes out for you, but I don't want that closed there. I want it here. So now I have my global block for my header, and it's perfect. You know, in this case, for the mobile, it's the same, right? So it's the exact same styles across the board. There's no special header 1, header 2. There may be, I haven't got there yet. So we may have mobile versions of here, but this is the default header. So I'm just calling it header. So I'm just going to grab this here, and this is the mobile version. Did I finish the mobile version? Blog content. What's all this stuff? I can keep that there. Let's put year in. And let's remove this. Oh, you can put company if you want. And definitely don't want this. So we're just going to get rid of that. Okay. So now I have my mobile version. I can do that. I can just grab my global block again and close it out. And what I want to call this one is mobile header. I'm going to keep the same kind of thing, right? I might find out that the inside page with header version 2 has a different mobile version. So now the user, again, they don't have to use these global blocks. You know, they don't necessarily have to use them within the system itself. Matter of fact, you could probably wrap, if you wanted them to be able to drag those over, because they're already going to be created and they're already part of the theme itself. Maybe you want them to be able to pull over that whole content block. So then you could even put a whole, you could probably change this to, we'll call this, you can wrap it with another one, call it global head. And now you can have a whole global head content block that can be dragged over and reused that will include both the mobile and the header. So now I have that, save that, grab that copy, which by the way, that second version I'm talking about that you're saving on, it's just a good backup, right? Telling what you can do, as far as messing things up. It's just a good backup to have later on. If you need to update the theme or whatever, need to go through and re-add something later on, you can do that. So definitely recommend that. So now I'm going to put all that in. I'm going to apply. So now I have 3 global blocks in that one section. I have a global block for the entire navigation, and then I have a global block for the total head, and then I have a global block for the main header, and then I have a global block for the mobile navigation. So as a user, I have all this over here. So if I'm the user who wants to reuse this, which by the way, they don't have to if they clone or if they're starting from scratch, of course they will, you would just drag over that and it would be the whole navigation, the whole thing, all those blocks together, opposed to just one. See how it's all of these, and then in case you just want to do one or the other. Doesn't matter. They're probably never going to use them. You're just trying to make it simple and easy for them to, create one change on the navigation. This updates across all pages that you have. Okay, so I did that. Now I want to do the footer. This one's pretty easy because I only need one, unless there's another footer type, which it doesn't look like there is. And I am going to put that in there and close it out, and I'm going to change it to footer. Okay, save that, copy that, come back over here. Okay, so now I have my home page. My home page is done. I've tested it all. Everything is the way I want it. Things are changing. I got rid of that icon that I didn't like. This all works. Everything is set up. Everything is mapped. Oh, this is a great example. See how I can't edit that? I can edit this one, but I can't edit this one over here. Wonder why that is. This theme is adding a wrapper here that's preventing the editing of the new ones that come in. Or maybe I'm just, mouse is not working here. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. So I was clicking on a layer here. Okay, so there must be some sort of layer here. It's preventing me from accessing these over here. So I have to move them over. So that's not terrible. Now I could spend some time trying to manipulate these. See how they're repeating? So the ones that come in on the repeat, these are just the same ones, but because the JavaScript's redoing it and restart. So Wade Warren's over here. Now Wade Warren's over here. That one's not editable because it's the duplicate version of that. Not a big deal. I don't think it's, hopefully they figure that out. You could spend some time with the JavaScript and make this an editable section that's changed. But again, the reason why you can't edit it is because it's actually a clone of this one. It's not a double one. So you want in here, so for me to clone this as a user, I would just clone that and see how it went down there. So if I went up a layer and cloned, it's going to put it all over there. So you have certain different ways to make this clone. If I save this here, it'll all go back in line. So those are just like little things that you just got to understand that this is actually rendering here. So if I were to save this live on the site, you would have this fall back up in here because the JavaScript is taking the clone of that with it, and it would put it up there. So there, I could probably spend some time on here to make this easier. For the sake of this time, we'll probably do another session on what I would do with these sliders to make it really simple. There's ways that we can have the settings up here if you do the right classes where you could actually delete here if we wanted to. But you're actually just cloning the same one within the section. So each of these IDs are probably associated with, this would all fall in line because there's no association to the number. So in this case, they're not changing numbers here. So if I were to save this, I should have two. I should have two in here. Oh, so it's down here. So I would have to spend a little time understanding the JavaScript just to tweak it for the CMS to ensure that I'm deleting. Hold on, let me just try to. Okay, hold on. Let me go up one. and clone that. Hold on. Code on this one on how they have it looping. Yeah, so this is just part of that, make it easy for them. You could add like 6 or 7 in there. So you could get, instead of spending the time doing this, you can assume they probably won't have more than 10. So you could add 10 in there opposed to having only 4. That way they only delete, because deleting is not a problem. The duplicating for this particular plugin, so here's 4. So this is swiper wrapper, and then you have active and inactive. Okay, so you're looking for swiper slide is the one you're going to duplicate. I'm spending too much time on this. I apologize, but so here, what's the layer I'm on? I'm not on swiper slide, so let me go to my layers here. What layer is this? So there it is. Swiper slide. So if I duplicate that now, see how it goes right there, but in addition, it made it long. So I wonder if you save it, will it all format? There may be one more layer up that I need to go. Yeah, so that's it. So I would have, so see how it duplicated just fine? So this, I would do one little tweak to it. One, I would make it, so this layer here, I'm not on the right layer. This is the layer. And then when you duplicate it, it's not rendering the JavaScript properly until after you see how it's like just long right there. It's because it's not copying and cloning it. So I would change up the JavaScript a little bit for this. Even though it reformats itself, I would automatically apply an additional class to that. Something obviously a super advanced user is going to have to go into the actual slider JavaScript and apply something to the JavaScript in the main JS to make this work properly. But that's what it was. I was on the wrong layer. Now I'll have 3 of them just fine, in the slider. And so what you want to do is you want to make it easy, for the customer or whoever's using this theme. In this case, I want to delete that one. And it's all the way, see how it's all the way up there as far as the delete? It's because the layers, they actually have all these hidden layers in here. And just to confirm, I'm going to put all the original code back in there, and I'm just going to assume that that's what I have to do for this theme. And that would be a great training session. However, I could have been on the wrong layer. So this is the right layer. So if I duplicate it, yeah. So what I thought, again, it's not applying the class real time for the spacing and everything else. So it just sits right here. But of course, when I save it, it works just fine within there. So again, just small little things you got to do with the theme in some cases to get it global. That's not terrible. A quick fix for somebody who doesn't have the experience or understanding as far as what they should do here is they should create clone 10 of them in here, right? Go into the actual code itself and put more than 4, put like 8 or 9 or 10, and then the user can just delete them opposed to adding new. That's the lazy way of doing it. Or, unfortunately, in some cases, the way you have to do it because you don't have the experience or the skill set yet as far as understanding JavaScript to do that. But hopefully we can get you there at some point. Okay, so now I have my homepage. So I'm going to grab this. And now I'm going to go back. So this is just my test site. It doesn't matter on here. This is not what a customer is getting. Go back to my theme engine. I'm going to go to pages. And I'm going to create a page. I'm just going to call it home. This is the name that actually creates. So each of these pages, it creates the page links, page names, and everything. So you want it to be the same name and the same format you've done for your navigation. And for us, we did homepage 1, or no, this is not even live navigation. So we've done home 1, home 2, home 3, home 4, home 5, but home 1 is just to the main homepage. So it doesn't matter at that point. I can just call it home. whatever. Call it home. So you only have one that's associated with home. Everything else is associated with a page. So you can only use that once, but the user, again, can select what page they want and apply it to the home if they choose, and it swaps at that point. So I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to go into it, and I'm just going to drop that code in there, and that's it. So all this is what I was just working with. I'm throwing it in the builder. I already tested it. I know this is the original version. I like saving mine for later on. That way, if I made a mistake, or if I want the theme to have something else to it, I can just apply it to it, and every new site forward will pick that up. So now I have my page there. So if I were to go into, a new funnel and create it from there, I have one total page. So this is going to build out my home page. Now, past home page view. Now, when I clone it, it's going to automatically create that home page, all the global blocks for me, everything. So I'm ready to go. I'm starting from scratch from the base template to start here. Of course, I add it, where you're going to want to add more of those if you're not. Another step here you're going to want is to configure the blog for the blog. And you can do that in several different ways. I usually just kind of copy this over here. Why don't we do that now? Because this is part of the home page as far as cloning it. So we have a blog widget, which in this particular theme, right here, just drag this over to your test page wherever you want, and then go and grab the post widget right here. This is how you can get your template code. Just grab that. So as someone who's building a theme, you're going to want this because this is for the widgets here. And so this is our new loop data system. Before, if you were using, prior to me releasing this new blog engine, when you drag this over, it would actually pull in like this. It would look like this. And I guess that's kind of confusing for the user because it's like, okay, I'm going to change mine. Is this how I do my blog? No, that's not. It's actually got to connect your blog by selecting it. And like in this case, I got to click on settings and select a blog for it. Well, this loop data, the problem with that is it gave you, whoever is working on this, or even the user who's not code friendly or code knowledgeable, they have no control of the design. And so you're kind of stuck in the design. You may want to change some stuff. So this actually allows the user to kind of apply their own styles, change their colors, whatever they want. And then you, as somebody who's setting up the theme, you have full control of what your loop data looks like. And so on a code level, this is what's really cool, like our map-driven stuff, any of the new feature functionalities coming out where you can create your own tabs for like real estate listings or profile listings or whatever director, whatever you want to build. It's our loop data technology. And so basically it's just an attribute here that's telling us what blog ID and how many limits you want to have. Now you'll notice that it created a blog ID because I've already switched it. If I was starting from scratch, there wouldn't be a blog ID in there because I've already selected. So for you who's putting this theme together, you're going to want to save these, just save this block here in this particular theme here. Save this block, this code. So your blog, essentially, if you had an ID, so it's just picking up my session from before, and then of course you can select it's defaulting to the blogs I have in here. You're not going to want that blog ID. You're going to want, and I'm just going to open up a Scratch file real quick. So you want to remove the ID. Limit can be whatever you want for your design, but you'll see that this div right here, actually I'll remove that ID there. So you have your template, right, that you're working with. So this part is what's looping. So anything inside that's going to clone this, pull the data in that's relevant, and it's going to loop through this. So here's all my tags. So I want to take this, which by the way, with the loop data widget as a regular user, you're just going to do just like a global block. You're going to select your section and then it's going to import, or you drag that widget over and you select whatever here. But if you're configuring a theme, you want to go find that little blog widget that you have down here. So I have a little blog widget from our blog right here, right? So 3 posts are going on. So you can imagine here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. So those are 3 posts. Just kind of make it easier to look at. This is obviously needs to be looping with the actual blogs that we have. So I'm going to grab that little wrapper. I'm going to put my little wrapper here. And then I'm going to grab, actually what you could do, you don't even have to really do that. You could just grab these attributes. You don't want to create a div and just find the div that's wrapping here and just put it on it as well. So now I've made this my wrapper that's going to loop through my blog post. And I don't need 3 of them. I just need 1 because it's going to clone in. So I'm going to open this up. So I have, with this style of the blog, there's a title, there's a company name. It looks like those are tags. So I could do with my tags, I can come over here and grab my post title. I have my post title. And I'm going to put that here, place that there. I'm also going to put title, put that there. Image, so I'm going to grab my image tag. I throw that in there. And I'm actually going to create this as my author. So I'm going to write in post date. Actually, what does it have for post date? They don't even have a post date in here. So I'm going to just grab this right here. I'm going to use that instead of company. Okay, and then my alt tag, just a little optimization for you. I'll put that there, and then my post link. Right, is there. And so now I have my little post widget here. Now what you're going to want to do is make a block for this, and we'll get to that stage. I just want to put this in here for now, just so we have it. And you could put a snippet here. So if we have a tag for the snippet, and you wrap it with a p tag, I'm sure it'll look okay. And I'll put that right after the post title. And image, okay, so it'll be a little snippet. It might look a little weird like that. I think I'll just keep it with the design and not put the snippet. Snippet is just, it condenses the first parts of your blog and this little summary there. Okay, so cool. And get rid of that. Okay, so now this is what I want for my main code. I'm just going to test it real quick. Apply. Okay, so now my widget's already set up for the user. The user can just come right in, and as long as they know to click right here and click right here, they can choose whatever blog they want, and this blog is there. They can also change the settings, right? They can do, I want 6 blog posts to show there, and it'll loop through 6 opposed to 1. So that's it. Now they could go and change. Don't worry about the image, right? It's not out to anything. It's just a placeholder. They could change the background color and whatever they want to do, apply additional CSS styles or apply different styles to this block. They can freely do that. As long as they don't remove this, it'll loop just perfectly on the live site. Now, because this blog, matter of fact, I don't have this one set up. Let me go ahead and redo this one. And I'll save it and apply a blog to it so you can see how that works on the live site. So I'm going to grab that and settings, and I'm going to choose, I think I have some posts in this blog example. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now on that site out here for that little widget, it's pulling in my blog posts, right, from my blog. And it's in the design of the theme. The fonts are all the new fonts I did, but it's bringing it in just perfectly for me. And now I had multiple placeholders here. Just continue, I could have 6 and it'll be 6 here opposed to 3, right? So you may have some blog feeds that do this and you want to, have that. It would just be 1 entry. And of course, it's all dynamic. It's all pulling that in. And of course, that's going to link out to whatever blog. Obviously, this blog is just a sample and it's not, anything. And matter of fact, let me go back into my code and see, I missed a link. So that's why you test it. I missed a link there. This needs to go to the actual post. Now, post title here, I missed the link. So why it's important that you test them all, because you don't want to put this as your template as the top level, and then now your users are cloning and having little issues like that. So again, I test all links in most cases before I do everything. Up, I need to select the blog again because I put the base in there, which doesn't have a blog associated with it. So let me save that to test blog, hit save. Test blog, okay. Well, did I save test blog? Okay. What the heck is going on here? What did I do? Post widgets. 239. 137. 239. $239. Why is that not showing? Oh, that idiot. God, okay. I need to eat. Okay, so that blog doesn't have any blog posts. That's why no blog posts were showing. And I chose the other one, which was the blog example. Anyways, that was ridiculous. So obviously make sure that you have blog posts in your one before you do this and test it. But the reason why I was doing that is because I want to make sure the link is actually linking to the blog. All right, so this is going out to that blog, which is pretty cool if you want to like connect multiple blogs to your one site, right? They go out to different domains. So then you have that control of doing that. So anyway, sorry about that. Losing my mind here. Okay, so we're done with that. I have my base. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my base again. I'm just going to re-update it. So we're good. And we're going to save. So now I have my home. So my home template is good to go. Now I want to build out my blocks for the drag and drop section. So on the blocks section, what you're going to want to do is you have each of these block sections. As a matter of fact, I am going to, let's go back. Let's see here. I'm going to create a blank version. Yeah, oh, you know what? I can just do it off the template itself. Go here on page 2. Okay, so let's say I want to make this a global block. You know, for step 1, you're going to want to take a little screenshot of it. And where's my little thing here? And save them, you know, save your screenshot. This is a little tedious, but it's actually kind of fun because every time you do it, it's like it's building and building and building. It's cool. Okay, I'm just going to put this in my images folder and just call this banner 1. I'll just call it banner. So PNG. Okay, so now in my blocks, I'm going to create a new one called banner. Add. Of course, you're going to have like banner 1, banner 2, banner 3. So you add that, and you're going to go into it. And you're going to upload that thumbnail. And I've already, where are we at? I want to just put everything in the image folder. Upload. Go out to banner. Okay. Choose. Okay, so now I have my section. Now I got to get this code. So you're going to want to go back out to your little site here, code, and you're just going to start slicing this up. And so the top part is main here, and this is the banner. By the way, you're going to want to swap that out with a different YouTube video. You know, you're not going to want just do landscapes or whatever. You're not going to want the theme information in there. You don't care.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one.
Back here, swap that out. Okay. So like I said, what's kind of cool about this, and you just kind of do that section off. So I have this section. I'm just going to drop that in there. I already have everything that I need for this block. Good to go. Now, when I come over here to the theme, this is going to appear down here, right there. So now if I want I want to use this on an internal page or wherever, I got it, right? Pretty cool. So you're going to want to keep doing that throughout the entire site. So the next section is this section. You may want to include this little logo part as part of the banner, but I like slicing it up even further in case you want to use this little part on another section. And save that. And we're going to call this logos. This is the only time I love seeing spam risk on my phone when people are calling. Okay, so I'm going to go back out to my blocks. And I'm going to call this logos. Hit add. This is the part that actually flies, to be honest with you, compared to everything else. This flies pretty quickly when you're kind of in your groove, right? So that's there. I like 4 or 5. Just for the sake of time. Oh, got to add your thumbnail. Don't forget to add your thumbnail, or it won't show without the thumbnail, obviously, because there's nothing to drag over. It's just blank, so they won't be able to drag anything if you don't have a thumbnail. So now you have your little thumbnail. Bring that over, right? So the idea here is to be super aggressive or super, what's the word? Just over the top on sections that you're going to provide. This will allow the user who's in here messing with this. Oh my gosh. I have too many monitors open. I got to move this up. Screenshot this whole section. Oh, you know what? I can just minimize my screen. So I have 4 monitors going, and this little screen capture thing doesn't pick up below this little section. Just have to move my thing up. Anyways. Okay, so save that. We'll just call this tab section ads. Okay. All right. Cool. And now I'm going to grab the tab section. As long as you know where you're copying and pasting, I mean, this part is just super simple, and you've already prepped this page, right? So everything is prepped. All your assets are mapped. Everything's good to go. You know, you just go in section by section and grabbing each one of these and saving a thumbnail. I mean, if you remember way back in the day when I was doing this, we'll just call this boxes. We all had like 5 or 6 content blocks. We have a lot now. Okay, so Unfortunately, I do have to check on the ship, and I can't finish this in time, but I think we've done a lot this session. So the good news is this is actually the part I really enjoy, especially late at night, jamming, because it's just so easy. It's mind numbing, but it's not like mind numbing work where you're like, oh God, I'm not finished. It's like every time you put this in, it like just makes it better and better and better, because now you're building out this repository, just really cool stuff to quickly customize a site. And you've done all the, the hard work. Now it's just easy copy and paste stuff and screenshots, and you're kind of just making it come to life, for your users. Typically I would be taking screenshots of my live site, because I don't want anybody seeing that little leaf in there and saying, where's my leaf? I don't like the leaf. Okay, this is, we'll just call this about something. So I'm just naming them simple names. The names doesn't matter. It doesn't show up. I do have a grouping feature that allows you to change this and group each section. I need to release that part of the theme engine. There's actually two things in this theme engine that you're not seeing. That one, for your default font, icons. So you can use the icon drag and dropper with the actual theme that you have, as long as you know the source of it. And then also categorizing these. So for instance, you may have been inside some of the themes now have, it doesn't just say blocks. It'll say like a grouping of blocks, like such block sections or what have you. I need to really, now that we're done with this limit system, I'm going to release those after this call, because this is going to be a global theme. I love this theme already, the way it's working out. Okay, sorry, blocks. But yeah, you'll have an option of choosing a category name, which will control the name. So they, someone can just come in here and, I just want all the headers or whatever, they can just click that, and go through. At any rate, you've already seen that because we have that today. It's just not available for the theme engine just yet. Okay, so we called this about. So I'm just doing normal names like this because as I come across like content blocks, I'm just going to name them again, about 2, about 3, about 4. It's just a little easier that way, in my opinion. I mean, you could do as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You could do it that way too, instead of just having these names here. Okay, so now let me grab this little block section. And, like I said, I just do this. This doesn't matter. I just do this because it's just easier to ensure that I'm not copying something that I shouldn't be copying over. It makes it easier for me to understand that I have the closing section or closing div, and I, just don't make any mistakes on this part, because this is the part you don't want to make mistakes on what you're pasting in, because this is what gets cloned or dragged over for your customers. Another thing that you'll find out when you start building these themes, depending on the theme, on what they use inside here, as far as the section. So in this case, this section here, I'll kind of close on this part of it, because as you start going through this is not a common problem, but it definitely was a problem with the dark side theme. And that's why, some of the sections were not editable. And when I thought one of these sections here was not editable, that was just because it's a clone of one that you can't actually edit it because it's a clone of it. But if I drag this section over, wherever I want it, you may not be able to edit this section. And the reason why is because in the theme, they're not setting the proper attribute or a proper wrapper, a span, a p tag, an h1 tag. Some of these themes will just wrap it in a div and throw a class on it and then manipulate the fonts and colors and of the text just wrapped in a div. That's no bueno for our system, because our system is dependent on h1s, p's, and spans and anchor text and actual attributes other than divs that allow you to edit that section. So if you drag a section over when you're testing out your theme before you put it in production, just double click on everything. Just make sure you can edit every little content block. I know it sounds tedious and it takes a while, but believe me, I released the dark side theme and I didn't do that. And how many people were like so frustrated because they couldn't edit something. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Works just fine. The reality was that content block, they couldn't edit because it was like this, this certain section, instead of it being wrapped in a P, they had it like this, which is lazy. But themes do that. I mean, you're building out these themes, you can't do everything. So they just relying on the class of this div to style this, opposed to having a style around your P tag and doing that. So if this was just that and not wrapped in a P, you wouldn't be able to edit this in our system because it doesn't have an attribute wrapping around it. So if you're working on a theme and that happens, all you do is apply a P tag to it. That's it. Or a span, whatever you want. A span or a P tag or a link, whatever. Then it'll pick it up and allow you to edit it in the DOM, in the builder itself. So cool. So I got that one in. Let me just do one more. Did I already do this one? We offer. That's the one I just did. What the heck here? Which one did I do? What we do? Oh, what we offer. Okay. I haven't done that one yet. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So let me screenshot this one. Shoot. All right, I'll make this the last one, and then I'll try to go through as many questions as I can before I have to bounce here. So about two. Okay, I'm just gonna call it what. Blocks. Add a block. It's just I never name it that long. I'm just burning out here, right? Upload. Yeah, I mean, there's like 5 blocks that I can't do all that right. Okay, at any rate, if I wasn't talking so much and trailing off and on sort of different things, I probably would be already done with this global theme and everyone can use it. So let's just assume we're there. I'll just close with that real quick. And then again, I'll finish this theme out before the next theme. Hopefully we'll have this before the weekend and turn Thrive on. So you have 2 brand new themes. Next week, I'll do landing pages. So we can do multiple landing pages at once, probably have a lot less content blocks. This theme is, this one's that extra step because again, it didn't have any of the root variables already done for us. So we had to figure out what root variables we wanted. We had to apply those all to the CSS file. Then we had to upgrade that to the next, next file is there. So a lot of time, then plus, me just talking and rambling on, we could have been more productive with a smaller insight. Plus a lot of people want landing pages for funnels and things like that. So, okay. So everything's good to go. Like I said, you're going to want to go in and test every single block and just make sure you can edit each section. And once you do, they're good. So you can just hover over, see the text thing, double click on it. You got the image there, and you got different options here. So it's sliding, right? So you got to wait for the slide to change the next one. So good. We're good. All right. So now that you have it all set and you have all your blocks, many blocks you possibly put in, more the merrier, less pages and more blocks. You've added all your pages, right? So in this point, every home page that I create, again, as I go through this, I may find out that there's other color codes that I need. This blue may be a different hue or a green, right? So I'm going to continue to go down that flow page by page, but I'm only adding, like I said, the main home pages and the corresponding header and footer for those pages with those additional global blocks for each called header 1, header 2, header 3, all the way throughout. And get all that set. Then I would do all of my screenshots for the blocks, right? That would be the last step, which is the most fun part of it all. And doing as many as you possibly can will make this be, just a much more powerful theme for everyone to use, and you'll have less people complaining about how to use the platform, opposed to like, wow, this is this is a dream theme for me. And of course, the more you have in there. So now you're done. The next piece you're going to do is come back to theme, and you're going to click on access. Now, I didn't put roles in here, and I wasn't really thinking the logic behind why you would want roles, right? So a role, the beauty of roles is if, let's say you're selling, you want to carve out in the contractor industry, and you want to create just an agency that just focuses on contractors, and all your contractors are clients. None of those clients, no offense to contractors or anybody in the small business market, they're just not going to come in here and leverage the entire system like a user or a company that has actual, salespeople that are dialing for dollars and things like that, or just leveraging the CRM to its full extent. Doesn't mean you don't have those. Those are perfect upsells to the CRM and everything else. They just want to see the reporting. They want to see their traffic. They want to see their leads. They want to get the leads emailed to them. They want a kick-ass site. They want to quickly customize it without having to go into the builder, and they want to hit the profile and all those other things. That's where the role base becomes powerful, because with a role, then you can set up different profile tags or funnel tags and use those inside that base theme to make it very easy for anybody who's not even going to go and do a drag and drop and kind of build their own layout with the with the theme blocks. They just want to go in and just customize certain parts of it very quickly. And so you create these little custom sections for them, right? Make it super easy for that type of role. So then you would have, a roofing role, HVAC role, plumbing role, and you would have different versions of this theme. So my thought process was, okay, you build your theme, then in your funnel section in the templates, that's where you're going to build out all your versions of your site for plumbers, roofers, landscapers, and then apply a role to them. So when you go into the actual funnel template, there's a role here. So that's why I don't have roles on the themes, because I look at it like a child user role. Like, this is a very specialized version of this site that you want to use and provide all the content, all the custom blocks, the personalization blocks, their profile tags, and it's all built in there. However, Steven made an awesome point today in the chat that he would like all that stuff kind of built out on demand, so he can go in and create all of his custom tags, all the custom logic, the if then, else then logic, which I'm going to do a full-blown training on that as well. I'm going to love that one, because that is a very unutilized system. You can actually create multi-step forms with it, very easily without JavaScript to make this work. And so at any rate, have that part of the theme engine to where you can build those just like the asset manager. The variables manager, have your custom attribute variables that either are a funnel type or at a personal user level type as a profile. So that's a huge idea, and that's not a big build. That's actually right up this alley of this platform. But the next part is the roles. So I don't have roles in here because of that. Others have asked about that, so I think I'm going to add roles in here, and so that makes sense where you can have that theme available to where it's not like a base theme that they have to click on the custom themes for, right? So that's coming. But at this point, you have two options. You can click and show this into your entire ecosystem. So that means all your parent accounts, all their child accounts. If they're on your organization of any branch, they're going to see this theme. And then you have user ID access. So your user IDs, if you're selling these themes or selling access to a theme, or you're just giving away a theme to somebody because you're nice, you would come over here to they would come to the user table and they would grab their ID here. So as long as this is an active user in the platform, and you can add this user and give them to it. So you just put the user ID in there, select it just like you do with the blog tags or any of the tags that we do in our system. That saves. Some were having troubles with that. That's been 100% fixed since last week. As far as permission errors and saving across ecosystems outside of your infrastructure. So you can do that now, and it works beautifully. So as long as you give them access now, and so one other step, you're going to want to create your thumbnail so it looks really cool. Let me just add this thumbnail. again, I'm going to create another one and change the theme name, and let me save that real quick. And I am going to upload the thumbnail. So obviously this is the fun last step. Just kind of closes it all. It makes your system more valuable for sure. Okay, so now in the funnel section, it looks pretty. Brings them all in, right? And so now it's there. Of course, your snippet and your preview link if you want. But again, I know I didn't get through it all, but I'm pretty much done at this point. I mean, in an hour from now, I have everything kind of mapped out. Now, I take that back. I could be coming into these internal pages, and there may be all sorts of different customizations, such as color scheme. I don't think so. But, you know, there's all these different, yeah, there's pretty much the same color scheme throughout. So I think I covered all colors, but you may come across something that you want to use a root variable for as you progress through the site. But now it's just copy and paste HTML. I already have my assets mapped. I have everything set for the fonts. I have everything set for the, you know, for everything. And now I can easily just come in and start from there and go through. So, all right, I'm done rambling on. I know there's 36 chat messages in there. By the way, I'm telling you, I've been using Zoom for years. Someone told me I can go back to these videos and find all the chat messages. If anybody knows how to do that, please send me something on intercom because I cannot find them. So I'll go through all of these. I have negative 11 minutes. So I'm super late for a meeting, but how about I'm going to spend 10 minutes going through these. I'll try to go through as much as I can. And if I missed you, someone please message me on intercom on how I can go through and get all these from the previous recording. Okay, cool. Importing without CSS, HTML, or JavaScript files. If you're importing through the blank theme and it's hosted somewhere else, you could just link out to that. However, there's tons of tools. If you're using Windows, you know, there's WH Tracker, there's Web Protext. Just search website copier. And basically that website copier will download all of the assets for you, and you can work off of them through that. So pretty easy to use that. Okay, so appreciate it, everyone. Does Theme4 offer themes for agencies? Yeah, I mean, you have all sorts of ones, but there's all sorts of themes in there. I try to manipulate the themes as much as I want. You're obviously going to want to, you know, do what you have on there for that. So does Ligna API allow creation of themes? I could parse a theme with Python, convert the pass, upload, also read API. Have you had a chance to look at the API pagination issues? I have not, and I will look at that. And yes, the API endpoint for funnels is finished, and the ability to create is based on the theme that's already in the system. So interesting on that approach. Now I have an importer that's using Python that's doing the same stuff, but it's mapped to the blank theme, the blank theme import. Interesting for the theme engine. So definitely would love to expose the ability for each of those elements to do that. And that would be huge if you could build something like that before I do, because people will want that. How do you handle JavaScript that modifies the behavior of the editor? So that is all stripped, right? So in most cases, the editor is not affected by the DOM changes. So think of how it works is that a snapshot of the raw source code of the platform is saved in a session. And you make changes to the DOM, including the JavaScript and all the code on the platform or for your theme is making the changes. We take what you change and marry it back to the original and strip out all the stuff that happens on it. So when you save it, you're not having to worry about that junk getting put in. Now, if you're building from the previous builder, I had a JavaScript parser, a parser that would actually, that's what you would have to do. You would have to go in there and put your class, what it's doing to the DOM, and save that. So when the user saved, it would strip that out before it went into the database so it doesn't break your site. That's what that parser was. I have that built completely in through it. You don't need that anymore. So no reason for that anymore. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. When can we expect more themes to be added to the system? Hayden, this is the point of this meeting. To me, it's like, okay, I could not go 0 to dark 30, and I probably wouldn't even get a fraction of where we are right now. My designers who love the platform, are on the platform day in and day out, who are the experts at building this stuff out, they're working with white label services. So to get them to build themes is difficult because of their workload. So they probably have more workload than I do when it comes to, no, they don't. But at any rate, we're both divisions extremely busy. So I figure if I just go 0 to dark 30, do some trainings and go through this, we'll have more themes. Like I said, Thrive is basically done. I just have to add the pages, the HTML pages in the back end. All the content blocks are there. This one is maybe an hour away from being done. So this is closer to having 2 themes than we've ever been, in addition to the 4. And hopefully more can learn from this and build their own themes and provide them out as well. So would it make more sense to auto replace the body tags and apply its classes? Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different ways. I've looked at this approach, as far as like applying the classes to the body name itself. I could do that and reapply it. But for now, all we're doing is taking the body and recreating it. So that's a good point. I could make it even easier to where you don't have to worry about that. When we save, stripping those out and apply it to the body as a certain section, or even exposing a field for you to apply your own tags to the body. So that's definitely something we could look at. Yeah, thanks. I did figure that one out as far as primary font. That's an amateur mistake. Can you demonstrate creating a theme from scratch at some point? Would love to see how you create a theme in Ligna that the builder likes. Honestly, to build something out from scratch, from the JavaScript and everything else, you don't want to watch me do that. Oh my gosh, the amount of time I would sit there and work on like the inner workings of HTML, but just to build that. But hopefully this is it's close to when you get to an HTML version of what it looks like when you come in. And by the way, most, and to Mac's point there, most are built off a framework anyways. You're starting with Bootstrap, Tailwind CSS, all your jQueries and things like that. I mean, I'd rarely see, anybody start from 100% scratch who has my schedule. I mean, that there's just no way. When a family member asks for a website, they are definitely not getting something from scratch. They're getting something almost already built. Will we have an integration into Lottie files for the CMS? We could, for sure. I will look into that. I can't see color changes being saved and translated to the color scheme of the global theme. It shows it on the preview, but when it saves, it defaults to the original colors. What am I doing wrong? So I'm not sure what theme you're on doing that, or if that's a theme you brought in. Again, maybe just coming back to, if you've gone through this process of importing a theme, all comes back to, is the CSS file the last thing being loaded that's changed, or you just put your variables in. Have to take a look. PHP Storm or Notepad++, definitely PHP Storm for me, just because I code in a lot of different languages, but Notepad++ is definitely really good for this. Other than seeing your hierarchy of what you want. On the file structure, I hope there will be an option to import things from URLs, because the more I watch this, the more I get confused. There's too many information to the process. 100%. I don't want anybody coming to these meetings thinking, oh, all of a sudden I don't know anything about this, that I'm just going to be able to build out themes for everybody. No, this is a learning. Hopefully I'm telling some information that you're going to come away from that you didn't know, as far as just HTML and JavaScript and CSS in general and Ligna in general. This is more for the ones who are actually building themes today, to kind of go through and see all the troubleshooting aspects that happen, and also have themes available for everybody else at the end result. And again, I'm going to train as much as I can to get you to this point, but this is not made for someone just to come in, doesn't know anything about HTML, and all of a sudden I'm just going to be building great global themes for everybody. That's not the idea. The idea is someone who knows how to do that builds great themes for everybody, and you can come in and drag and drop and build out something so quick and sexy that you've saved a lot of money using something like that. So 100% agree, importing things from URLs, and completely understand it, that's there. And I'm certainly going to be bringing that as a feature functionality. It's just not ready yet. Can you lock global blocks? My experience has been editing them accidentally too easily. That's a great point. Definitely need to take that into consideration how we can do that. Rough timeline for listening feature. We're already using it today. I just have to turn on the UI side of it over here, and it's closer. I would say for sure no later than, and I'm updating the roadmap right now. It's on that. So that's going to be one of those ones you see in a week or two for sure. By the way, I believe ChatGPT can handle conversions. So you may just be able to ask it to do some of this work for sure. I agree. All this information needs to be refined and boiled down into a cheat sheet, in my opinion. I agree. I could fill in a social base on the client's profile, social, etc. Instant win. Yep, I agree. I can help with most anything. Zoom features importing from more than one URL. Sweet. So I kind of went through all that. I got to go. I'm 20 minutes late. I appreciate everyone so much. Like I said, this is just going to happen every week. Jump on if you want to jump on. If not, at the end result, we're trying to build some themes so more people can leverage the CMS and be happy about it. So again, I appreciate everyone's time. Hope you have a great weekend. And till next time, thank you.